The Boys has finally wrapped with its 5th and final season, and I thought to myself, why not rank all the 40 episodes? Not including Gen V because of where that follows down with Season 5, meaning that it's kind of pointless and would just drag this video out. But that's what this video is for. It's for me to elaborate on my highlights, my big time highs for the show across the many years, to even the negatives and my frustrations. And it's going to be ranked from worst to best. And as follows, let's get straight into it. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, the penultimate episode of the series finale. What do I think about it? I thought it was straight ass. People don't really like the finale. This is the episode I really don't like. Even from Homelander killing the president to never be addressed again. This is easily the episode where I have my biggest problems thus far. For example, you have Homelander showing up and doing his x-ray vision and all that and checking the vent almost, but then he stops because Frenchie stops him, which, yes, I appreciate his sacrifice. I feel like Homelander still would have checked that zinc vent immediately after, just to make sure there wasn't shit there. But you know, he has to be kind of dumbed down for this episode, so that kind of takes away from the whole scene where Frenchie dies, because I just feel like there should have been more deaths in that moment if he was just any bit smarter. But even the moment with Sister Sage and helping Frenchie out with love to bring Kimiko with Soldier Boy powers, I felt was fine. I didn't have no problems with that, especially since I know her relationship with Godolkin in Gen V Season 2, so that made sense to me. But overall, to people who didn't watch that, they won't really understand it, so that's kind of weak for them. But even just the fucking decision that is beyond me to knock out Soldier Boy and let that be the ending for him. This is probably what people thought about Black Noir dying in Season 3. That's how I feel about Soldier Boy, apparently. Because this is it. This is all we get of him. That's it. We got his Vought Rising set up, and that's it. Fuck you. You're gone. That's what Clara would have wanted. But no, I'm not satisfied with that. Whether it be Huey and Butcher being chained up, and I thought the moment with the shapeshifter going into Kessler and how he alerts Homelander, or just the whole sequence talking down on Butcher's personality, I thought was good. You have the Deep obviously being threatened to die in the ocean in the next episode, which I thought was fine for a setup, and the most you get here is a recording, and I feel like that should have been more talked about, so that way Starlight bringing him to the beach would have made more sense. But they don't. That's just me making up my own fucking bullshit, because this unfortunately doesn't do it for us. We get the death of She-Line in here, and Dognot. Finally, they should have been dead, at least Dognot in Gen V Season 2, and She-Line in Episode 2. But whatever, man. It's all here. I'm very mixed on this episode. If there's a weaker episode in the show, then I don't think many come close to this one. This is kind of one of the more staggering ones. And it sucks, because Frenchie does die. You get that pivotal scene, but it just takes it away from you when I realize Homelander could have killed more people there, or at least he would have, if he was just any tad bit smarter. But whatever, that's this episode for you. Just a bit underwhelming. Episode 4. This is an episode where I'm a bit conflicted, because while I do enjoy it, I think the writing's a bit all over the place with this one. You have the Starlight subplot in here with her biological dad, which I don't mind, but it feels like this should have been put in for a Season 4 episode, if not a Season 3, but mainly 4 since not much happens there. But as far as this one goes, it's a lot of Vought Rising setup, where there would be Fort Harmony and Soldier Boy's character with this dude on the wall that we don't really know much about, to the dynamic of Soldier Boy and Homelander and how their complicated relationship goes down the line, even though he flip-flops, and I don't really like that, how they push him going forward past this. But even the moment with Butcher and Homelander, while I do like that, and that's kind of like the big highlight for me, I don't see much in this episode that's worth kind of revisiting. I guess you could say for the boys dynamic, which is fun, but like I said, it just feels like this is a padding of the time for the season, and a little bit meandering, and I couldn't help but notice that. In this episode, MM gets shot, and it's never addressed, even from Huey's side. I just don't understand that. It's a bit baffling there too. But even to the point where Soldier Boy's blast, his chest blast, that power scaling was so prominent in Season 3 to destroy so much land. And here, it just basically crispy burns a wall. Talk about underwhelming. This episode's probably going to be lowly ranked just because of those reasons alone. But, like I said, I still enjoyed it. Episode 2 is probably the weakest one out of season 4 to me, and even then I think it's like fine. I don't think it's bad. There are issues I have with it, whether it be the Colin and Frenchie subplot that goes nowhere still, so I don't care about it any more here than I did in the last episode. The opening with the A-Train joke of Will Ferrell and training A-Train, I thought that was funny. You have more of Black Noir speaking in here, the second one, and getting to know more insight on him as a person, whether it be that or even Huey interacting with his mother. I thought that was nice. I don't like that the Frenchie subplot somewhat rubs off on Kimiko, but then again, near the end of this episode, you get the shining light that's set up for a future episode, which is another little subplot I don't really care much for since it goes nowhere past this season. Beyond that, I do like the inclusion of Firecracker in here, and I really like what she does near the end, whether it be fleeing from the boys after all the shit they've done, to even the moment with training Ryan and where that ends up. I feel like that's a nice way to have him fearing about his own powers and how he uses them going forward. I also really like the moment with A-Train talking with his brother. I feel like with everything we've set up in the previous season and even for this one going forward, I do like Butcher and MM's relationship in this episode, whether they be very conflicted with one another in the small fight that ensues out of it. I thought that was good. But even Homelander in this episode is more subtle compared to other ones. He's not really present so much in this one. He does a couple stuff here, whether it be manipulating Ryan to try and make him feel no guilt over what he's done, having no remorse, and I like that for his character. He's trying to make him a little version of himself, which I can appreciate. I also found Homelander stealing the milkshake from Ryan a tad bit funny, but there's not much to talk about this episode beyond that. I thought it was good, but there's nothing crazy to be celebrating about it. Honestly, there's not much to say about this episode. Like, it's not bad, but it's not nearly as great as the episodes noted way higher on this list, or even above to some extent. There are some good stuff here with Starlight blackmailing A-Train briefly after he's out of his coma finally, to Kimiko and her brother interacting never so slightly bonding before it goes to shit, you know. But even with that nice bonding, you have Homelander and Ryan in here a bit, and having their little interactions and their chemistry and how they work as a father-son duo. But you do have the Becca tension included with his childhood life and what that kind of represents to her.
You'll get bored and move on.
You don't know that. You don't.
You were right. I'm not gonna get bored and move on. I'm not going anywhere.
And, of course, you have to have your little deep humor sprinkled in here, so you have that as well. But this episode is very much a calm before the storm situation, because not just for the season going forward, but literally the episode after this, there's a lot of crazy shit that goes down. I would say the Neo drop is worth mentioning because I really do like the Neo drop at the end. But without that, like, this is a pretty good episode. It's nothing crazy, though. This episode's good. I'll keep it very broad. I think the finale's just better, but you have moments in here with Homelander being intimidating, killing Web Weaver following the info from the last episode, to Ryan opening the package Butcher sent under the shipping name Don't Be a Cunt, which is pretty funny considering it gets brought back in season 5. If anything, it's one of the more comical and best ongoing jokes in the show between the two seasons. Ryan not really following in his father's footsteps, telling people to care for your family, not really be distant. I feel like that makes good character work for him going forward, and the distance between Homelander and him following into the finale or even season 5. I thought that was well written. To moments with Mother's Milk getting back with Monique, full circle here, I think that was nice. And even him confronting A-Train, and A-Train talking about how the save from the last episode made him feel.
You know, when I carried your ass to the ER, there was a kid there. His eyes were like, holy shit. Nobody even knew, except for this one kid. That felt better than anything that I had ever done at Vought. Because for once, I didn't hate myself. That's on you.
I finally enjoy the fact that Kimiko and Frenchie can be together again, following everything. You do get the shining light briefly in here at its most talked about stage, as well as the Colin least talked about in here, which I really love because I didn't like that about season 4, but it's finally wrapped here for those two to have their happy ending, or so you think before the finale kicks in. Kessler being in here talking to Butcher about him being a hypocrite and fucking Maeve, or even cheating on Becca. I thought that was nice to showcase Butcher's not really a great guy if you didn't already get that vibe from the previous seasons we've gotten. But it's nice to be seen here in season 4 as well. To even A-Train having his redemption arc full throttle here, whether it be saving Starlight and MM and help aid in that fight versus the new Noir and the Deep. I found that to be immensely satisfying for his character. And even him trying to save Ashley last second, but she refuses, I feel makes for a very tragic put for that character, not just near the end of this finale, but also season 5 going forward. I can only help but appreciate that being topic here and being one of the more present things in the episode. I enjoyed all of that. Ending off, figuring out that the shapeshifter is Annie, I thought made for a nice twist. However, it does lead into one of the more bigger problems I have about the finale when Starlight's mad at Huey because of the shit he's also gone through in here. But it also begs the strange question, how the hell did the shapeshifter hide Annie's real body, considering they were at a public place, and I believe someone would notice her being dragged out. But shit, that goes to show the lazy writing in here on top of great writing in the same episode. It makes for a conflicted experience there. On to the more tragic subplot. You also get the deep with Ambrosius here finally being wrapped up, him killing that octopus, only for that to be brought back in season 5 as well, but also make him more of a joke, thinking that he'll be a serious character following that moment, but no, he isn't. I especially like Homelander figuring out that A-Train was the leak, and then being mad at Sage and kicking her out following that news. Him being emotional makes total sense. Overall, I tried to keep my thoughts broad, and it ended up being a decent portion of me yapping about this episode. I like it. I don't have many issues with it, and I think it makes for a very enjoyable watch. Peaks of this episode are better than the negatives for me, especially when you have the peak getting cucked by the second noir. No lobotomy needed.
Wait, but you can't leave. I love you. We have something special, don't we?
Wait, is she lobotomizing herself to you too?
What do you mean lobotomizing ourselves?
Bro.
I mean, what is there to say, because this show is The Boys? What kind of statement can I make for this sort of thing that will mean any sort of value? But what a fucking bizarre episode this one was when it comes to not just rating it, or at least ranking it. Because on one hand, I love certain things about the episode, whether it be like Stormfront and Homelander's confrontation at the end and how that sets up for the future of the story. Or even just Butcher and Becca and their great interactions, talking about the conflictions, catching up on lost time, how to deal with Ryan. Will they keep him after escaping? That makes for some great stuff to hear those two characters and where they stand on how they want to deal with the situation. But you also just have a lot of funny as fuck moments in here, whether you have Homelander looking at the screen and seeing the memes, which unironically gets a little bit of a payoff kind of with season 5 and how he pops off there, but seeing it here for the first time is pretty funny. And getting to cherish moments like that with a little bit of entertainment here and there of Homelander crashing out to get a little glimpse of what happens later in the season is worth me knowing, since some people will come back to this episode remembering a lot of things from it, but not leaving it with that impression. Overall, it's fine. It's definitely a lot of exposition in here, which is probably why it's not going to be so highly regarded to me, but it's still good. I think it's all good. And for us to understand that Stormfront is a racist piece of shit, we get that in here. But other subtle things that get overlooked, whether it be Starlight not aiding a person who got in a car crash and kind of ignoring it, will also just kind of mean something later for a character in her position in episode 6. But not much happening other than that. I'm trying to stay for this season, specifically for season 2. There's a lot of highlights, but as far as the highlights go, it's like slower moments, and this is by far one of them. I will say, you do get a really nice moment here with the ending of Homelander killing Doppelganger, who, you know, is impersonating him, saying,
I don't need everyone to love me. I don't need anyone. I don't need you.
It makes for a pretty fucked up dark moment, but, you know, it's Homelander, so you can't help but feel like it was expected of him. Episode 1 of Season 4. I think that this episode is really nice to open us off to the season. I think that having the introduction of characters like Kessler and Sage here were nice for how they were introduced and where they will follow in this season in particular. And while Sage will kind of dip down in quality in Season 5, I think her being here was great because her plan at the end, whether it be killing Todd and staging it for the Starlighters, I thought that was good and set us up greatly for the conflict going down the line. But you also have the introduction of Colin and Frenchie's subplot here, which I'm not too crazy about. It feels unnecessary when looking back at the season, or even for when it first came out, low-key. The opening with the boys and their plan to kill Newman, I thought that was fun. From Huey interacting with Newman and how that dynamic went, I thought that was fun. The fact that the two actors here are married in real life, apparently, so that could explain it. They're very energetic on screen here. I especially found her interaction with Butcher, talking about how they're doing worse at their jobs, to be particularly funny.
Or plan B.
How is it you guys are actually getting worse at your jobs?
To even the little moments with Homelander and Ryan and Butcher all in the same room together conversating.
Who miss us?
Bloody hell. You wait to your own voice, don't you?
That's the spirit, champ.
But yeah, there's not much to talk about this episode. You get a little bit of a hint of Butcher's soup power, his disease, his parasite, and you get left anticipating wanting to see where it follows from here. Nothing crazy. Except for the Deep being requested to
blow A train.
And even the setup here for Huey's dad being hospitalized and where that will lead in one of the better episodes out of the season. Episode 6 of Season 4 is a very tricky one because I do like it, but it has issues. It definitely has issues. So whether it be the fact that Huey gets very much mistreated and they kind of play it off for jokes, there's only like one time they cover it near the end with Annie, and that's not enough for me. I feel like something like this would have been more talked about or more addressed from his father dead to this. It just feels like Huey goes through too much shit here, and I guess it's to showcase that he doesn't break. He doesn't really stoop down to the lows after all the shit that has happened to him. I'm fine with that. We didn't need this extra moment in here thrown in just to really like hammer that home. It felt a bit meandering to me. As far as the A-Train redemption arc, you get the satisfying moment in here of him saving MM following his heart attack and that boy smiling at him and what that means for him. Perfect scene. That you get in here, and that's the standout moment for me. Webweaver being in here as a parody to Spider-Man I thought was a little bit fun. A little bit dragged out humor from him in the opening, but past that, it was fine. I liked the ending a lot. The ending's a nice callback to Season 2's first episode ending of Butcher saying Daddy's home, so seeing that played here with Kessler and the reveal that he's a hallucination and all in Butcher's mind, I thought was a great sequence to showcase here. Overall, not much of an episode. I have many things to talk on. If anything, it's one of the least I can talk about. You have the follow-up in his mansion and what they talk about for Homelander's plan going down the line, with Sage becoming dumb as fuck considering the interaction with and Kimiko. Overall, fine episode now. I used to think it was good, now I just think it's fine. It's not bad, it's just kind of there. I did like the conversation here with Newman and Sage, and specifically Sage talking about her upbringing as a soup with her grandma dying to cancer. I found that to be a sympathetic tale for that character and what we learn on her. My only issue is that in that scene she drops the big news that she could have cured cancer, that she knows how to do that, yet she doesn't know how to prevent Soldier Boy from giving Homelander the V1 in Season 5. But that's a Season 5 issue. I don't think it takes away from this moment in particular. It just ruins that one in Season 5. I also like Firecracker running into Starlight and almost getting sweet talked to an apology only to get knocked out. I thought that was good and a nice way to deal with her at that moment. However, I don't like the decision to have Frenchie absent this episode after turning himself in and what that means for Kimiko's character. It feels like that subplot's just there to take up screen time for the season, when both those characters deserve so much better with everything we've set up to this point in the show. And you have the conversation between Deep and Noir in here about how the OG Noir had a murder boner and how that will get a brief payoff in the finale. You do get the insane Homelander and the breast milk moment with Firecracker in here, which was pretty funny to witness in real time. And where those two and their dynamic goes in the future, I thought was pretty well written. Even into Season 5 where she does die, this moment gets called back where he suckles on her. A very smaller scaled but still insanely wild episode that I found myself enjoying a bit, with a couple issues here and there. Episode 3 of Season 5, the episode where they remember Ryan exists. But, I really like where we follow up with Soldier Boy and Homelander in here, following the sort of betrayal he feels in Episode 2. I do like having Stan Edgar back, even though it's very brief and he gets captured by Noir after being, like, very comically evil. But don't even worry about that scene, because it really goes nowhere following Mother's Milk. Just ignore it even happens here. That would be one of my negatives. But you have Maverick and Huey in here, and that dynamic, especially considering Season 1, with how he felt killing Translucent, finding out he had a son. You get that episode payoff here. But the whole action scene with Huey versus Maverick, I thought was good. Jack Quaid has a really good physicality performance there that I can only appreciate. And whether you have Homelander and the tub being freaky, to Ryan and Butcher meeting and speaking with each other once again, I think that's good. You get, if not one of the most stupid things in this season, and that's Zoe sneaking in the van without Frenchie or Kimiko ever paying mind to her being in there. Why they wouldn't check baffles me, and the fact that she even gets in, sneaks in, undetected, is what leads to the virus kind of going fucking nowhere, because they just needed to find a way how to not kill Homelander, and it was a pretty stupid way to write that in there. I would say there's not much to talk about here. You get Soldier Boy and Firecracker's relationship going forward. And to talk furthermore, you have Homelander getting the God complex here even more literally with Madeline in his face, which, yeah, very comedic and fitting for the character. I think they set up to this very well in the show. But past that, yeah, nothing much. You'll just get set up here for future episodes, and then you also get Homelander beating the shit out of Ryan. Overall, fine episode. I thought it was decent.
No cap on God, bro.
Starting off for season 2, I think it's pretty well paced. It definitely answers a little bit of the lingering question following the season 1 finale. And while I don't think it's as strong as the finale episode for the previous season, I found it fun to just straight up jump into the next season and see where things picked up following the events prior. You definitely have a lot of good stuff opening in this episode. For starters, I think Black Noir going on the mission to stop the soup terrorists, I think is a very energetic kick to start off this episode. But just other things such as Homelander with his milk fetish, where you kind of get that brought back in here. Even though it is present in season 1, it becomes far more like in your face prevalent with this starter. And I think just having it talk more on the humor being based on here, whether it be him taking gulps and then having Ashley come in and stop him. Just a little bit of comedic moments all the way that lead into the freakier side of him in season 4. But hell, you even grow Ashley's anxiety to higher elevations as she watches Homelander basically F up Blind Spot, making him a deaf man on top of a blind man. Still feeling bad for him in this scene every single time I see it back. But the scene with Stan Edgar and Homelander you get in here is another contender for a great scene, not just in the season, but the show as well.
But maybe at the cost of destroying the whole company.
I don't think I appreciate your tone, sir. Not much at all.
And I don't appreciate that the FDA now knows about Compound V, or that it's only a matter of time before the public finds out. While you're preening at the Golden Globes, we're busy running around like maniacs trying to clean up the mess you made.
I think the ending is good too, especially with Raynor's death happening in front of them to twist that narrative of, oh shoot, there's a suit blowing up heads. You don't know what it is up to that point, but when you see it in hindsight, yeah, it all makes sense. Frenchie calling Butcher for help, and he arrives to say,
but don't you worry. Daddy's home.
The boys are back in town, and it's leaving the audience waiting to want to see more what happens from there. That's basically all I can say about the pilot for season 2, but it's pretty good. Episode 6 was kind of the hope to bring back the season, while it didn't really follow that momentum that the ending held with Homelander getting the V1, which, yes, with the musical instrument knocking you down for the episode's end, I thought that was great.
Run.
But like I said, they don't really follow up on that momentum, so it makes it weaker in comparison knowing that. I like this moment with Huey and Annie talking, and him talking about how he understands what his dad finally meant to him back in season 4. However, having Bombsight in here, you're going to have a lot of your little Vought Rising set up in here. It's still just like that. Or even Soldier Boy with his what Clara would have wanted. I loved her. Just all that flip-flopping around with Homelander, and even just talking on shit that we don't really see or know to the fullest extent yet. I didn't really like all that in here. You have the oil spill with Deep, and how that will lead into him killing Noir too, which I'm fine with. I know a lot of people are negative on it, but he got stabbed in the one area that was vulnerable while being strangled. I don't think bro was going to be flying while losing oxygen. However, I do think the Golden Geisha segment with Bombsight and their romance, and even her talking to Kimiko, I thought that was good and neat. To the little fight in the senior home down, I thought that was nice and fun. But there's not much going on past that for this episode. You have Ashley trying to figure out what Soldier Boy's thinking and what they're hiding. To even the Legend in here, who gets, if not one of the best moments in the season period.
You're not scared of me.
No, I'm not scared of you. I feel for you, kid. I do. I mean, you're a fucking whack job, but, you know, that's talent. So, no surprise there.
You can go.
You even get the very embarrassing moment between Starlight and O-Father and how that quote-unquote fight goes down. And why would they even bother showing it off at all? But I think this episode was fine. It wasn't anything too crazy like people were hyping it out, at least not to me. So with that being said, the ending being lackluster, not really following through on that, is definitely one of my weaker parts. But I do enjoy the little gag at the end with Firecracker and AMC. Episode 3 of Season 4 I thought was the best out of the 3 that dropped initially for this season, and I still stand by that. I think that here you have a lot of nice moments, whether it be A-Train saving Huey, which helps his redemption arc, to even the Colin and Frenchie subplot actually going somewhere here. You finally get that call back to the episode in season 1 with Frenchie and the dialogue he had with Huey. That's the most you get out of this subplot, and it's shown here with the visions of the dead bodies he's seen. And I think that works well. But past that, I don't think it needed to take 3 episodes to get here, let alone that it even drags to the 4th and a bit of the 5th. But here, I would say I like Firecracker's inclusion in the 7. I do like how that gets paid off, or even Sage joining the 7. I feel like that progresses the story going forward in a way where I like it. I do like Butcher interacting with Ryan and deciding not to knock him out, ultimately having that sympathy for him, finding the humanity in Ryan, that he's not just like Homelander. I like that he somehow manages to get in the same match as Ryan in this like Mortal Kombat ripoff, which I did enjoy. I do think that this episode sets up a lot of stuff, whether it be showing you Sage and how her lobotomy works as far as becoming more dumb, or even the Ambrosius thing with Deep that's kind of set up in here. You even get Ashley trying to quit and resign from Vought, only just for Annika to be killed by Homelander, which I thought was great, and that being the reason of stopping her from leaving. Pretty tragic for her. I thought that was written well. I don't have much to talk about. I think the ending's really good, and how that leads into, if not one of the best episodes in the show, and season 4 period. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 3. I thought it was fine, if anything good. Teenage Kicks is an episode where I was left satisfied at first, kind of underwhelmed. I wasn't so hyped on it like everyone else, but especially with hindsight of where the season follows down the line. And even the return of Soldier Boy was fun and hyped to see at first. Even though later down the line they would kind of fuck up his character progression, which I'll get into on a future episode. But I like the side plot here with MM and the Teenage Kicks soup that controls the Crow. I thought that was nice. To even Homelander here seeking out Soldier Boy to fend off after the boys, which ultimately results in a consequence with those two, even though it ain't very long-lived in the season. But I think there's some nice, neat moments in here. I would say that compared to the season 3 finale that you get in here for Soldier Boy confronting Butcher, I thought that was good. You even get the nice brief moment of Mother's Milk and his reaction to the virus being used on Soldier Boy with that raw anger towards him, which I really liked, even if he really didn't die there. I liked the conversation here with Huey and Butcher talking about A-Train acknowledging his death, how he died a hero. That was all great to me. Whether that or the moment of Soldier Boy kind of rising up from supposedly the dead, like we thought he was dead and it was faked out. Homelander feeling guilty for sending his father out and even threatening the Deep there. That was funny. But yeah, on a first watch it was good. My only issue is that they kept Soldier Boy around. I feel like it would have been way more satisfying if they had just killed him off there, giving MM that satisfaction. But not just because of demand, but also because that's what Clara would have wanted. We had to keep him around. Anyways, I would tell you that there's a character moment that's stupid in the next episode that I will dive into, which makes the whole virus here feel even more pointless. Past them testing it, which was fine, you have a Stephen Hawking parody in here. I think Rockhard was his name. He was a bit annoying to me. I only found that one joke about the eruption with the volcano funny, but past that, it's whatever. And even Sheelan, I feel like, should have died in here with Jetstreak because of what happens later in the season, and that gag, just for her to kind of get thrown aside with another gag as well. Like, just so many things with that character that I don't really care about. The idea of V1 making someone immune to the virus and fitting for how potent and unstable it was, I thought was good. We also get to finally know what Ashley's superpower is following the season 4 finale. But you get a nice gag in here that I really like of Homelander, where instead of getting a Manhattan, he's at first given the request for.
Can I get you a glass of milk, sir? No. I'll also have a Manhattan.
This is also the episode where you get to see Kimiko and Frenchie as well as Huey and Annie be freaky in the sheets. Which I'm fine with, considering all the relationship build-up those two couples have got throughout the show, so that's fine. But overall, my highlights still stand as Anthony Starr is still great in here, like the moment where he talks to Orlando settled Reggie in his coffin. Overall, an episode where I'm not so highly negative, even though I am talking on my negatives a lot more. I had a positive experience nonetheless, just a tad bit underwhelmed with how great Season 5's opener was compared to this, and then obviously where the season will lead on in the future. Alright, episode 5 of season 3. Starting off, you already have MM confronting Butcher after the last episode, with him taking Temp V and quitting only to be dragged back in when Soldier Boy is brought in the mix, causing chaos, which I found to be two good scenes showcasing the ongoing battle between the boys facing the soups regardless what the members prioritize. Butcher with Homelander and MM with Soldier Boy. Two similar acts of revenge, but two different sides to the same coin. Poetic. Meanwhile, though, Homelander struggling to cover up his destruction within the city, I found to be nice, and Deep getting the comedic crime analytics lead. I found that to be a bit goofy, but fitting for the character. Aside from that, you get Butcher being a bit freaky with Maeve in this episode and that intimacy. Not that it really ever gets brought back up until season 4, but it does happen here, which I thought is worth mentioning. Kimiko's reaction and how she handles losing her power since the last episode, her being briefly happy, I found to be nice, even though it's very short-lived considering what happens in Herogasm right after this. And the fact that Starlight confronting A-Train about what happened in the last episode, that I found to be a good scene with her confronting him about Supersonic's death. To the Blue Hawk setup with A-Train and where that's going to lead for not just a problem within Season 4, but the end of here with Season 3 and even Herogasm. Setting up Todd to be one of the most satisfying ass whoopings in the show. The inclusion of the Legend is also here. You get his appearance in here and how he mentions for Soldier Boy talent, which will get brought back in Season 5. And to all the people who keep complaining about how Homelander wasn't much more buffed since V1, here you just get the discussion of how V1 stops you from aging and makes you look young throughout various years.
He hadn't aged a day.
Wait, so he doesn't get old? Like Stormfront?
We kept that under wraps. He was 63, she was 19.
You get Homelander confronting Maeve here and how she pities him, leading to one of the better interactions that emotionally hurts him through the show. And unfortunately, Butcher knocks out MM to try and help Soldier Boy with his compliance of killing Homelander. I couldn't help but feel bad for him, and I feel the way it was written and executed here makes sense for Butcher's character. And shoot, he barely misses the reveal of Soldier Boy in his full outfit, which I gotta say looks damn near great and makes for a hype moment as he approaches to cause some more fucked up chaos.
You're that asshole from the lab.
That's right. I'm the asshole that let you out.
Furthermore, I like the dynamic between Starlight and Huey here. It's pretty decent. Having them gain conflictions through their shared honesty being broken, specifically through Huey's side, and that being the ender for the episode is fine to me. The final Crimson Countess interaction between Soldier Boy or the boys I found to be a good way to wrap up the episode too in a fun way. However, I cannot show the Seth Rogen clip in here, otherwise this video would be down in 2 seconds. But just know that it's stupid and humorous. Honestly, when it comes down to Season 1, it is very consistent with how much I enjoy every single episode, and this 6th episode continues that trend going forward. This is the episode where you get to know the female's name, better known as Kimiko. You also get some of her background here with her brother, which, you know how that's going to go later down in Season 2, so it's nice to have that set up here. I would say I like the inclusion and the humor in this episode for Mesmer specifically.
We go back to the teenage kicks days. We still keep in touch.
Oh, golly gee shucks. What makes you think I would give 2 fucks about that?
I think him being here briefly to set up the bigger confliction between the boys and the Seven, specifically Homelander, and bringing him the phone knowledge with their whereabouts and what they look like. I think that makes for such a tension-built moment for what we'll see in the future going down. But I think the way Butcher's character interacts with Huey all throughout this section of the episode, especially this part of the season here, is probably one of the best yet we have up to this point in the show. As we get a very big, deep down, more personal conversation and understanding for both these characters put together and where they lie in this mission. Whether it be on the bench or in the therapy session, Carl Urban's line delivery in that sequence is one of the best things I've heard, where he says things such as,
You back off, or I'll shove this stick where you used to be. You're a bunch of pathetic soup-worshipping cunts. I bet you'd thank a soup if they shat on your mum's best china.
But yeah, this is more of a comedic episode to me. It's probably not as strong as the other ones, but I still really like it. Like, it's still a really good episode. But dare I say, this is one of the more standout episodes for the sake of group and character build-up for the boys as we establish where they're going and where their certain viewpoints lie within this season. Even with the last 10 minutes or so, it brings us some better setup for what's next in store for the following episode. Overall, pretty good. I like it.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
This isn't an episode I want to spend too much time discussing because I think it's a pretty good opener for Season 3. I don't think it's a bad episode at all. I will tell you now that here's the episode where you get the Butcher and Homelander conversation between Scorched Earth, Blood and Bone, Shock and Awe, all that. And I think regardless of what you think about the Season 5 finale, whether it be underwhelming or not underwhelming to you, I think that 2 of the things in there, the Shock and Awe and Blood and Bone, still stands on its own, is a great conversation, a great interaction between those 2 and one of the best in the whole show. So that's nice to happen here. But then you also get catching up to speed with the boys, because this isn't really much of an action-packed episode. If you're looking for that, this isn't it. But you get Huey also figuring out how Newman is the head-popping soup at the end, which is pretty great. Or even like your little bit of Homelander memes sprinkled in here, whether from the start of him looking at the theater screen to even...
Yummers.
Just a little bit of setup in this episode talking about Soldier Boy and where that will lead in the future for this chaotic season. It's an opener. Nothing much to say that there is highlights. It's just paving the way for future episodes to go down. But as far as what I thought it was pretty good. Episode 5 was one of the more highly regarded episodes out of Season 4 to me when I first watched it. And I still think it's good, but it has gotten a bit weaker. What I will say right now, the subplot with Huey and his dad, that's still perfectly done. I think the way that was executed was really well, and even Simon Pegg and Jack Quaid here acted really good in this episode, so that felt very emotional and heartfelt. But even the little adventure they go on with Stan Edgar and bringing him back into the mix, I thought that was nice. Seeing him interact with the boys and even being afraid of a chicken more than Homelander was pretty funny. There's not much to this episode past Butcher talking about, we're going to go fetch the virus, we're going to try and find what we can do with it. Obviously, Season 5 doesn't really do much with the virus going forward, so having it here kind of makes it slightly weaker, I won't even lie. Having a little hint as to what Butcher's power is, whether it be the dead money that goes, Pleh! I thought this episode had a lot of laying the way for the future episode, aside from the Huey subplot, which I do say I like. Whether you have the ending of Samir being tied up and taken hostage by Butcher, I thought that was really nice and laid the way for the next episode. I don't very much like Frenchie being here trying to turn himself in. That doesn't feel as satisfying to me, and it feels like they just needed to write him off for the next episode, since we already dealt with his guilt back in Season 2. I didn't want to cover it again here. I like the little father-son duo dynamic that Ryan has with Homelander in here, whether it be slapping Adam and where that ends off for the episode. That makes for a nice, neat little bit of the episode. I don't really very much think that this episode is too crazy now, like I said, with Season 5 in mind, but I still had my enjoyment with it, with even suspenseful things like A-Train and his redemption arc, where there be Sage letting on kind of the vibe that she knows A-Train's the mole, and him kind of getting that vibe to Ashley framing Cameron Coleman and him dying in this episode. I thought that was written well and made for a very dramatic scene. But like I said, enjoyable episode, a little bit weaker with Season 5 in mind, but I still like it. I still think it's good. It has a lot of charm and fun to it, with its fair amount of tense scenes. If you couldn't already tell by now for the ranking and how everything's going, this is one of the top 3 episodes out of Season 5 for me. I really like this one. I thought One Shots is great. Now, hear me out. I know this one's not relatively highly regarded in a lot of people's eyes. I'm not sure why, whether it be the cameos from the celebrities, which, yeah, if that's not your thing, sure. But I didn't think it was bad here. I thought it was fine, and it makes for a great chaotic third act to finish off this episode almost. From that to the focus on Firecracker and the way they wrap up her story, I felt was poetic, having her conflicted with her own religion and her own beliefs, and then ultimately choosing Homelander just for him to straight up kill her after she says, even God needs love. I thought that was perfection, and I think the acting by Valerie Curry in here is great. I thought she sold that performance perfectly all the way to her demise. But even having the different perspectives in this episode, I thought that was a bit interesting. We haven't seen that in the show, and I appreciated it. To the moments with Black Noir going to his drama class, or whatever it was, his rehearsal, and having Adam die, I thought that was fine for his character, and that really fuels his hate going forward for a future episode. And even Terror in here, having that bittersweet moment of him effing the Homelander plush, you know, because that was already told to us in Season 2, to have that brought back again, I thought was pretty funny.
Hey, you want some turkey? Well, first you gotta fuck me, then I'll give you the turkey.
And even the more subtle moment with Butcher and Huey and his humanity, how it's still there because of Terror, showing moments where if they do find the V1, he's willing to give it to Kimiko and Annie, which even though that doesn't happen, it's like to have that conversation between those two characters, I thought was sweet. It showed a little humanity in Butcher that I felt people were thinking he didn't have anymore, so that's great. Whether it be Stan Edgar speaking with Homelander again, talking about how he amounted not to much after following Soldier Boy, I thought that was nice. But yeah, this is an episode where I can't say I have too much problems with. I like that Soldier Boy keeps the comic, by the way. But I really do like one-shots. I'm very curious to know what I might have missed that people don't like about it. But for me, I had a great time with this episode, and it is, if not one of the best in season 5. If I was to think on one of the more negative things in here, it would probably be for me the fact that Mal Chemical exists and the boys never once thought to use him for season 3, especially when he says he was at Herogasm.
We know you've got that fucked up chest blast thing. I mean, I was at Herogasm. I saw it.
But past that, I don't think I have many problems otherwise.
We are also seeing massive growth on the ground level.
Yeah, I'm seeing massive growth myself.
Right off the cusp of this episode, its opening might have one of my favorite Homelander moments and even just top 3 jokes in the whole damn show.
So what, they're all starving, but one of them's got a fucking cell phone?
But that's not to make fun of the episode in any capacity, because even though it has its fair share of moments of humor, it does have its serious moments sprinkled here as well. Whether it be A-Train not wanting to get kicked out of the 7, to Butcher reconciling with the decision that Becca made in the last episode and how that gives him a sense of depression of what she said. Even get a little bit of terror in here. You know, Butcher's Bulldog, for those who don't remember, this is his first appearance here in the show. And I want to keep a brief moment to like a little wholesome moment here, addressing that the dog that did portray terror in the show did unfortunately pass. So rest in peace to him. But with that brief moment out the way, let's go back to the episode. I think having Homelander tormenting Maeve for the sake of being a lesbian and just kind of like publicly putting that out there, that shit makes for some of the greatest like hatred building you can do for Maeve, leading to not just the end of season 2 but also into season 3. So I think that builds up for stuff really well down the line to get paid off. And even things here with Kimiko and Frenchie interacting, with him talking about how revenge is bad, getting that sense across her how it's like a poison. That's great for their character and building them up in the future for this show. But even moments like Huey referring to Butcher as a hypocrite when going back to something great in season 3. Just having that all here in this episode for hindsight makes for some great moments to get paid off later. And I would say that even in the previous episode with the Rage Bait beating Homelander for season 2 in episode 4, this one has him tweaking out in the hallway with the great instrumental in the background for the score. So that's already great as it is, and you know the scene. I'll even play it here if anything. But him losing that attention and desire for love he soars and seeks for the public is a nice little dedicated moment solely to him, and Anthony Starr sells that very well. If you want to talk about heavily debriefing future seasons or moments in the show, not many come close as to the moments with Butcher's brother Lenny being name-dropped here and how that will be paid off later in season 3 in one of my favorite episodes that I will talk about deeply.
Isn't he the spitting of Lenny?
No. Who's Lenny?
Lenny's his little brother. I think Billy needs someone like that, you know?
But just talking about how even in here you get the confrontation between the boys and Black Noir, if you even want to call it a fight, because aside from the ass-whooping Noir gives all of them pretty much, having Butcher make that deal with Stan Edgar to call off the attack and make the exchange to ensure their safety, I thought was done well. And before I even topic the ending, I also want to quickly mention that for Terror, he fucks a Homelander plush like a Chad.
Terra? Fuck it. That's my boy.
Jokes aside, briefly talking about the ending, having Homelander and Stormfront getting it on for their relationship going forward, I think that you really get a lot of great setup here, not just for this season, but future seasons. This is the sense of character build-up without the sort of exposition build-up that I really like. I really like character moments way more than my exposition if it's done well. And here, it's done exceptionally well. I love it. Right off the bat, this is an episode where I'm very glad we get to see how resourceful Huey is to the group more past the second episode, but you also get Mother's Milk's introduction here, with him meeting with Butcher. The whole segment is nice to watch, leading up to the truck meetup of the boys, where it might be another one of the more funny moments in the whole show for me as they laugh when Mother's Milk smooches on the phone to his wife.
Fuck all of y'all, okay?
This is also the episode where you get A-Train doing the race, the one that most people will remember from season 1, I think, especially with the Compound V and where that means in the subplots. But just the little moments in here surrounding this episode are great. From the Homelander stare down with Butcher for the first time up to this point in the season we get to witness, to the more commentative moments regarding Starlight and the fan, with the sweet side of things regarding her interaction with Huey afterwards. The character build up here and the relationship they'll build up further, just I feel was really done well in season 1, and I can appreciate it a lot in this episode, not just in hindsight, but on my first watching for the show. It was great. You do get your occasional fucked up moments in here, though, yeah, because it's the boys. You can't expect it to not be fucked up if you're watching the show. That is the one thing. And here you get Popclaw having that moment, and even Homelander to an extent with Maeve. This is an episode that more or less takes care of continuing to build up the characters. This, I would say, up to this point, so the first 3 episodes would be the weakest out of the 3 starting, but even then, I think it's pretty good. But overall, a very solid watch, though I'd rather leave you on the note reminding you that Homelander had beef with a baby. That's pretty fucking crazy and hilarious if you ask me. And I feel like some of you might not remember that, but I'm here to remind you, yes, a grown man beefing with the whole baby. To all the people who love Homelander, well, be grateful. You get his big cheeks in the start of this episode. Season 3, Episode 3 is a really great episode to me. There is not many problems I have with it. It's a lot of character building, but in a very great way. So, for the people that feel like Ryan losing his powers in the finale for The Boys Season 5, I'll just tell you right here, it's set up here. So I'll give you the scene real quick to understand it.
And Grace wanted to get me a dog, but I told her no. I was afraid I'd hurt it. Yeah. Me too.
And I think that scene is so bittersweet in hindsight where it plays off at the end because of all the stuff Ryan has gone through. But putting that aside, having those two have their dynamic, speaking with each other, I thought was great. And then also just having a lot of moments here, whether it be Starlight trying to help Supersonic get out of the 7 to like prevent him from being in this very chaotic and consequential world. And knowing where that leads, I feel so bad for the dude. But beyond that, I think I really like his character, and the two of them interacting with their shared history is great. There's also a comedic scene with Huey getting his arm snapped and broken by Kimiko, which I thought was comedic. You even get the funny moment with Butcher throwing up on Huey. I would say you also get the nice monologue here with Homelander being intimidating, talking about let's light this candle, release the video. I prefer to be loved, but hate is okie dokie by me. Great stuff by Anthony Starr there. Even though with Season 5 in hindsight, it is no more than just a bluff now. For when you witness it, pretty great scene, and it just makes him all the more pathetic that he didn't, follow through with that. You have backstory from Mallory's POV talking about Payback and Soulja Boy and how he is, how he acts, his sort of demeanor, and I thought that was great to really get that caught up to us on information. Whether it be that or even the Deep and his scenes in here with Homelander.
Hey, Deep. What? Eat fucking Timothy.
Intimidating scene and a very big power play by Homelander to make him feel small, and I think that scene is great. And gets even better just with the moment in Season 5 where Homelander confronts Deep and calls him useless. Which, speaking of which, we're about to hit the finale ranked right after this. I really like that moment, since it gets more explored and even paid off down the line. You get Frenchie's subplot in here. I'm not too high on that sense of the Season 3 plot lines, but overall, I think the episode's tightly paced. You even get your Butcher popping off with Ryan moment here, where he says things that he shouldn't have said, and you know where that leads in the future for him siding with Homelander. But yeah, I don't know. This is a big character built up episode, but done so greatly that I have no flaws with it. Another episode where the time just kind of passes by, and I think the writing is great here. Talking on the most controversial episode in the show's entirety, the series finale. Now, going off the bat, I'm about to get guillotine executed for my take. I like this finale. I definitely have big issues with it that many of you also have. But my experience with it first was with 40X, and I had a great time with that. However, watching it again by myself, getting a moment to sit on it, or even just seeing more of the complaints online, that was enough to make me go, okay, yeah, it's definitely not as high as when I first saw it, but I still liked it. I still do. Now, talking on my negatives, Homelander being nerfed in the final fight. I fully get that. He just sent the man up to space in this episode in like less than 2 seconds, and he can't even flee the fucking office. I get that. People having the complaint that he can't kill Kimiko after he lasers her in episode 1. Yes, I fully get that. Especially when he gets his powers taken away. He just fucking takes it like a good boy and he doesn't even think once to, okay, laser her. Because his eyes aren't even covered in that moment. That shit pisses me off. But you also get the Deep versus Starlight in here near the beach, which I know a lot of people hate that they landed there, specifically courtesy of her. And if they would have just wrote that in a moment where he smacked her down, or they saw the video from the previous episode and that's why he fears the ocean and they know it, that could have been altered and at least somewhat helped for this case. But there's no point in defending the lazy writing with that moment. No! However, the death itself I found to be very satisfying. Her being the assist to kill him from the ocean, which she didn't know, I felt was still satisfying because I wanted her to play a part, and she did. Watching that in the theater was very satisfying, and my crowd loved it as well, including me. I've seen people argue, why didn't he just swim away? Let me tell you this. You see him running around, trying to flee, and sure, he didn't run as fast, but there are so much sea creatures you see surrounding him and swarming him. Where the fuck would he have gone? What are you smoking that you think he was gonna get out alive? His ass was dead the moment he stepped in. You knew this from the last episode. So to see people argue that, I don't get. Or even people saying, how did he die? I thought he was invincible. No, he's probably like a translucent situation where the only thing vulnerable is his asshole because his skin is invulnerable. That makes sense to me. And hell, we even see his gills in previous seasons, and that's one of the things Starlight uses in season 4 to defeat him, by picking up by the gills. He is very much vulnerable in certain areas, and you know that. Anyways, going more into the fight, while definitely not better than the one at Herogasm, watching it at the theater, seeing Ryan show up, people were fucking screaming like it was Endgame, bro. I'm telling you, the reactions were insane. You can't just sit there and tell me that moment wasn't hype. Maybe it didn't hit the same way for people watching on their own, but for me and my theater experience, that shit was peak. Let alone the moment when Butcher finally shows up through the room and he confronts Homelander for the first time for this finale. And then eventually you get to the moment where Kimiko gets the vision of Frenchie, and while that took me out of the moment severely and I thought it was kind of strange, there was a moment in the theater that someone said, I think Monk, and that shit killed me. But that's not even to the episode's credit. That's more of the theater experience I had and the reactions that other people had, which ultimately affected and helped influence my experience for this episode, as well as enjoyment. But past that, the Homelander death itself, I thought was handled perfectly. Maybe not how we got there, but the scene itself, the kill scene itself, the death itself. Perfection, the top death in the show for me. From seeing Butcher and our perspective of Homelander without his suit powers for the first time in this show, I thought was great. Him trying to escape and him trying to laser him, I thought that was pretty funny. The satisfaction I get seeing Homelander grapple at his fucking knees, talking to Butcher, begging for his life, while being a sniveling pussy with everything we've seen in this show, I love.
Suck your dick, please.
And I swear, when I first saw complaints for this episode coming out, one of them, and I'm not joking here, was Homelander lost his aura. He wouldn't go out that way. Are we watching the same fucking show? Because at that point, you're rage baiting me, and it almost worked. If anything, it did work. Fuck you. But I'm gonna go further on and say that scene was great. I love it. Homelander dying the brutal way he did with the crowbar from Butcher. Perfection. Blissful and all feeling in the theater witnessing that with other people, and I'll showcase the reaction here. But also the moment with Butcher and Huey and their final standoff, considering what happened to Terror and Ryan distancing from him. I thought that was all good. It was definitely rushed a bit, but for those two characters and where that ends off, I thought that was fine and very much led and paved the way for what the epilogue was going to be. Which, unlike Frenchie, they do give Butcher a more earned and honorable death scene. He even gets a more honorable and faithful funeral scene, which compared to Frenchie, I wasn't very much jiving with the humor of the assholes that they kept blabbing about. It felt dragged out and it was painfully unfunny to me. Whereas here, it didn't overstay its welcome and it felt nice and true to the character. Whereas the Gen V characters were severely underutilized in this final episode, whether it be all the setup we had in Gen V Season 2 or even the build-up of Season 1. All that setup with Marie went fucking nowhere, and it just doesn't mean anything. Watching that show feels completely pointless with where that wraps up here. Talk about staying true to the character, that's something that I am very deeply angry with about this finale. However, with that being said, the epilogue here is great, whether it be MM getting back with Monique and then marrying as well as taking over for Ryan as adoption, or even Kimiko having a dog. I thought that was great. I especially like Huey and Annie and where they end off about to have a child, and while some people don't like the idea of the child being named Robin, keep in mind that's not his ex, that's his late girlfriend. Not that it's not any less weird, but it could be so much more worse, I feel like, if it was an ex situation. It's more like honoring the past of what brought those two together, which I'm fine with. The needle drop with Piano Man by Billy Joel at the end is fitting for this show, and this is probably going to be the highly and most discussed episode on this video, and I definitely have my flaws, and don't even get me started on Soulja Boy and where they wrapped up. I already talked about with episode 7, but yes, it not being resolved here pisses me the fuck off. But past that, the real big highs of this season finale for me, whether it be the epilogue, I do really love. And even Ashley I thought was really good for the brief moment she was here in the finale. I really like where they wrap up her character. I thought was fitting with all the shit she's gone through over the course of this show. To even the moment with Homelander talking with the Deep, demoralizing him, belittling him, calling him useless, making him feel vulnerable, I thought was perfection with everything we built up for both those characters and even just Deep as a whole. And Sage kind of dipping out after all the heinous shit she's done, I think is whatever. It's not my biggest problem. I'm not too strong about it, but there is that in this episode too, which I'm overall mixed with. And sure, while logically the way Oh Father Dies shouldn't have been possible, and maybe it was underwhelming to many people, my reaction to it wasn't anything crazy, but my theater vibe kind of upstaged it for me. However, with that being said, that's my thoughts on the series finale. It is not the best finale out of all the seasons. If anything, it is the weakest.
No, not you, Seamus. Ah, poo.
I still stand on the highs that I really love about this episode being so good they outweigh the negatives for me in a way that I had a positive experience. And to the people who were expecting Scorched Earth and all the fucking promotional bullshit they were showing you, I feel bad because I knew the expectation that the financial budget wasn't going to let that happen. To the people who did believe in it, or even the finale post that they dropped, fuck whoever was the creative team deciding that. I don't like that decision. Anyways, my 4DX experience highly influenced how I reacted with that series finale. I definitely think it has its flaws. It's a very big fair share of flaws, but I do highly regard it more than I disregard it. It can definitely be said that this episode is Billy Butcher centered because on top of other things you get in here, you mainly get him interacting with his abusive father, that encounter. And dare I say, with the context of season 3, the episode hits way harder and effectively on the rewatch with what happens in mind. But hell, especially now that I'm kind of editing and recording this as we speak right now with season 5 out, the way that kind of wraps up in season 5 I think is also very satisfying because, dude, fuck that, man. But I feel like that resentment present here, not just being great, but also the moment with Huey and Lamplighter where they go out to rescue Starlight trying to do one last heroic act in the state of misery and self-neglect he has. The way he goes out, I find to be good. It's a bit, like, in a sense, comedic for the way he just does it as an asshole, but it's the best possible way for him to go out, especially as a companion alongside Huey, who convinces him to do this. To the moment with A-Train and Deep at the party, with him being sidelined, and the two-face of his mentor.
By the way, what do you guys think of Eagle the Archer?
He's the most kind, loving person that you
He's
ever...
a toxic personality, and no church members are to have any contact with him whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. No, now that you mention it, he did seem pretty toxic. Yeah.
It's just a great moment for that piece of shit. To even the blackmailing or threats against Vogelbaum and how that accumulates to the ending of this episode and how insane that shit is. I think it makes for a great episode. Not much to say here, but once again, like I think season 1's 7th episode, this is a calm before the storm situation where it takes place before the finale, setting you up for the stronger stakes and for everything that's going to happen. All the tension building, all the character and plot-driven moments that are going to get paid off.
What was he like? Who? Homelander. Growing up as a lad, what was he like?
When he was a little boy, he'd cuddle up to me, tell up stories about Davy Crockett, Teddy Roosevelt. Loved the idea of the woods, the forest, manifest destiny. But, you know, I needed him to be the strongest man in the world, so I went to work on him. He didn't even want it. It was for me.
I would say I'm just left satisfied with this episode. I'm curious to know where the story moves forward from here on my first watch, and I couldn't have been any more interested, especially with the head popping massacre at the end. Just gotta say, episode's really good. I think I have really no problems with it, but for people watching it the first time, you'll have a blast. This episode's a great one. Season 3, episode 2 has so much great stuff to offer. Whether it be picking up where we left off, Huey figuring out more about Victoria Newman as Naughty in the Red River Files, and her connections to Stan Edgar, great stuff. But primarily, the things with the boys figuring out what payback is, and going to the individual members, Butcher going to Gunpowder, or even Frenchie and Kimiko going to Crimson Countess, and where that all leads. But Homelander in here, what a great standout he is. You obviously have the "no God, only man in the sky is me" line in here.
No. No God. The only man in the sky is me.
Which is so perfect for that character. One of the best moments in the show for him, period. And same thing goes for the ending. The ending speech of,
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better. I am done apologizing. I am done being persecuted for my strength. You people should be thanking Christ that I am who and what I am because you need me. You're not the real heroes. I'm the real hero. I'm the real hero.
That's in this episode as well. You get 2 of the best Homelander scenes in the show in this episode. Just so many standout character moments for him here. But whether you take that aside or not, I think that this is an episode that just kind of builds the plot going forward and leaves you wanting more, especially with Butcher killing Gunpowder at the end. I talked about how Mesmer, I think, was a really good showcase of his hatred and his fuel for rage. I think Gunpowder might be above that in a sense. Take away season 5's finale with Homelander, I think Gunpowder might be like a secondary, if not like a top 5 kills that Butcher does, where you can really get that visceral feeling that he hates the Supes. Very satisfying for us to see, because I think the action scenes briefly with those 2 are fun stuff to watch. But yeah, this is an episode where I have no problems. It's pretty, like, the pacing goes very quick with this one, but it is really good. I really like this episode. Following the show's pilot, we get some great stuff in this second episode of season 1, whether it be having Frenchie's inclusion put into this section of the story. We even get great stuff in this episode, such as the boys figuring out how to deal with translucent as it becomes an ever-growing problem. With Seven being more involved following his appearance in the first episode, it makes for some great tension moments in this second episode. Obviously, the Homelander with Frenchie moment is great. That one stands out as a big tension-fueled moment, and the way they deal with that makes perfect sense, and I feel like that was written very greatly. I think with the ending, you having Huey be this resourceful guy who kills Translucent, but also Frenchie being this fun inclusion, a very energetic character who seems to be a very much carry point for the boys at certain sections, especially in season 2. But there's a line here in the scene that on my first rewatch, I didn't really pick up because season 4 wasn't out yet, but seeing it the third time, there was a scene here that directly gets called back into season 4 directly. While I don't like how long it takes its time to do that, I can appreciate it a little much more knowing that it is set up here in a sense.
I think about her all the time. She was the first person I ever killed. I carry them all with me. It's like scars in a way.
And it gets a payoff there. But overall, this episode ends off strong. I really like Huey as a character. I've already said this, and I think he's really great in this episode. And just having a Homelander be as intimidating as ever up to this point is also great. But you get some great humor in this episode as well, whether it be the A-Train moment in the hospital with the one patient who's dying. That will always crack me up, and even might be one of the most dark, humorous moments in the show. That not even just for this season, but in the show's entirety, I think it's great. It's one of the better landing jokes. But yeah, I would say this is a good episode. I would give it a strong 8-ish, high 8-ish ranking, but that's where it is. Where do I begin with this episode? Unlike episode 3 of the first season with the A-Train race, this is the one that's revolved around the more gospel church-centered setting. And I think that makes for some great stuff, not just for that particular like focus in the episode, but just the episode as a whole. I think it has some of my favorite character moments, and I think it's very well paced. I don't really have any problems with this episode. If anything, I'll just talk on my highlights for it. But you start off with Popclaw's death from A-Train, which you already know how that goes down in the future with everything we built up to this point, and especially with like his redemption later down the line, seeing him progress as a character, this being like one of his more harsh things. I feel like in hindsight it's such a crazy thing to witness at your first watch, and it still holds up even on rewatches. But just Huey meeting Homelander for the first time, how comedic that is, and I love that scene as well. To the moment with Butcher and Mother's Milk going to the hospital and then seeing the baby and using him as a weapon. If he ever goes rogue, threatening to kill him.
Holy fuck! That was diabolical!
Now you keep your nose clean, sunshine, or I'll come back and stump you.
Just a lot of fun scenes in this whole episode to put. I would definitely say that for me, as much as I enjoy it on a rewatch, it's definitely a big highlight in the first season. It's one of my more favorite episodes, not just in the whole show, but just in this first season alone. It is very highly regarded in my eyes. So find out that the soups aren't miracles just cooked in a lab. Having that all answered for us as we progress with this episode is a very nice reveal, and I'm very satisfied with it. But just to talk about stuff with Homelander's speech in here as well, where he's talking his monologue, you know, as it is, and it will come back later in season 2 and even in 3. But I just think that the way it's written in here for season 1 is really great, and it does stand out as its own like positive moment I need to shine light on. But as just talking about it, I think having the testament of how good the writing of the show is at times, this episode definitely clears the way for it. I think it's really good. I think the writing's really good. I think the pacing's really good here. And whether you have Huey threatening Ezekiel having one of the more funny moments in this episode, I find it to just be a moment with Homelander that's slightly more funny, even though I think Jack Quaid himself has talked about the improvised line and that being one of his favorite things on the show. And you can definitely tell, like, there's a lot of fun that they have while filming this show, but you could feel that with their performances. It's just great.
And you played my butt like jazz, with poise and skill and willingness to improvise.
Because I'm pretty sure Eric said to me that there were 2 lines that, you know, were improvised, made the cut, that he like loves so much. One was one from me where I said, season 1, you played my butt like jazz with poise and skill and willingness to improvise. That was my riff.
This is an episode where I have a lot of fun, especially when you have Kimiko fighting Black Noir and Frenchie finding out her superpower with a really nice needle drop to end the episode off. I just find it to be a really good time, a good hour spent, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, especially when comparing it to other episodes. But I really love this one in the middle of season 1. It is damn near perfect in my eyes. Okay, season 3's finale. The talk of the town, the episode that some find disappointing or underwhelming, while I didn't. I really liked it, and you're about to find out with the way I elaborate with it. So going forward, you have Homelander getting Ryan from Mallory and where the future moments in the show will take place, considering that. Consider this the domino piece that sets everything into motion. I think for the initial viewing, it makes for a suspenseful watch, because you never know if Soldier Boy is going to follow through with aiding Butcher and killing Homelander, considering the big news revealed in the last episode. And speaking of moments in here that I love, you have Soldier Boy and Butcher's interaction with each other, and how Soldier Boy was talking more into his past, saying how his father viewed him as a cheater in life, how taking Compound V, turning into Soldier Boy, getting the publicity and all the fame, made him a disappointment to him.
Never laid a hand on me. He couldn't be bothered. He said I was a disappointment.
And what did the old man say then?
He said I took a shortcut. That a real man wouldn't have cheated.
And I love that because the way it gets brought back onto Homelander, I think, is even better.
Weak? You. I know. You're a fucking disappointment.
One of the more top moments of people belittling him and how it just hits him on a very personal and brutal way. And I think Jensen Ackles delivers that perfectly in the moment. But even if you have season 5 and, like, you know, where things go with him as a walking and talking and breathing Vought Rising ad that we all will come to fear, that doesn't take away from that great scene in this episode. I know that the OG Noir dying here is apparently controversial, and while I have seen people debate on it, that they played his death off for laughs. I don't find it that way. I find it to be tragic, with a sense of wholesomeness shining his way rather than simple shock value, symbolizing that through all the pain and all the torment in his life, he chooses to use his figmented, cartoonish imagination to uphold the darker, more brutal reality he lives in. Almost like a sense of cope. And I feel like viewers probably didn't see it that way, which I'm surprised they didn't take it that way. For me, I found it great. You also get the intimidating scene with Homelander talking down to the three, Ashley, Deep, and A-Train, showing them his mask, saying that he's moved on to a better place in Orlando. Pretty tragic. You have Homelander setting the Deep up to kill a high government official so Newman could be the vice president-elect, to the fucked up wig reveal moment here with Ashley, and I just couldn't help but feel bad. I think Colby Minifi does a great performance there of showing that vulnerable and intimidated feel. Whether it be that, or the moment of Maeve's fate and her being alive and Ashley covering that up so Homelander can't hunt her down. I found that to be great. But anyways, let's talk on to the final fights at Vought Tower. Because while I'm still angry at Butcher for saving Ryan, like many people, but that's more of a me thing. I totally get why Butcher's character did what he did considering Becca and the promise he made. But that switch up towards Soldier Boy, I felt bad for him because he got betrayed for the second time here. And even with Season 5 done, it's happened a third time with Homelander. Poor guy, he can't catch a break with betrayal. But I found it fun to see Butcher team up with Homelander briefly, to even the fight that has been long awaited and built towards for Maeve versus Homelander. But I enjoyed to watch both of them knocking big blows on each other with lasting injuries on another one that felt more climactic than the Season 5 final fight and more balanced, unfortunately. But I think the decision to have Starlight power up here and showcase that briefly was nice. I also wanted to quickly mention in here the moment with Kimiko stalling for Frenchie while he's cooking up the gas to knock out Soldier Boy is great. I love the needle drop of Maneater in here, and that was appreciated. Maeve, on the other hand, deciding to leave aside Homelander and prioritize in saving everyone from Soldier Boy, I found to be good for her character, and I especially like where they wrapped her up and wrote her for ending off in the show. She deserved that happy ending with Elena, and speaking of endings, you get the awesome needle drop of Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road in here, which if Nirvana weren't a thing in this show, that would be my top needle drop for it. But it isn't. That's how good the needle drop in this finale is. The things I really love in this episode, I love highly. So you have set up for Season 4 in here as well, obviously, whether it be Newman becoming the vice presidential elect and where that would lead for Season 5 with the boys trying to assassinate her, to even the Annie January situation where she rejects the Starlight costume and she wants to pursue her more real secret identity and just take that as her public persona. That's great stuff. And even A-Train in here, speaking with his brother, setting us up for Season 4 and the growing redemption he has for Season 5. That's all great, and you have that laid out for the groundwork here for this finale, and I love that. And you get a very blissful scene for someone like Mother's Milk, where when they break Soldier Boy's shield, and you know the hatred, all the revenge he has towards him, that animosity, that satisfying reaction he gives out when the shield's broken is amazing for him. I'm happy for him.
You shield, bitch.
And hell, if not for Todd, Homelander murdering the dude, the Starlighter, in broad daylight, the whole world would be burnt to the ground at this very moment. If the budget allowed for it, that is. But jokes aside, talk about a horrifying ending that not just sets up the next season perfectly, but leaves a lasting impression even once the credits have rolled and the episode has ended. I really like this one. I highly regard it. I really like it. It's ranked high.
The one that kicked it all off for this series. I think, let alone not just being a first season, but just in general being a first episode opening to a season, this is really great. If you're not already engaged by the opening of twisting the narrative with Homelander and Maeve saving kids, looking like the community is in awe and shock and comfort of safety, but then you twist that narrative of they're really just fucked up soups that have this other agenda and have different views, it very much gives you a more grounded focus on what a world with soups would look like. And just going more further than that, talk about Robin Dine in the first 10 minutes. Fucking diabolical. And speaking of Butcher and his lines, the first line you get out of him in this show is absolute cinema.
Tell me, how many nannies shake their babies? You know, a good...
Well, you just have so many good moments in this first episode. At least I'd say so. So following Huey, like I mentioned earlier, being the real first perspective, you follow in this episode with his perspective, I find that all to be great. And as well as Annie being the second, getting accepted into the 7, because Starlight's a big focus in this episode and even just this major first season. Having those be the introductory segments for what this season is going to show us and dive more into, including moments like that deep flashing Starlight, like all these pivotal moments that matter and really do set the tone for what you're watching. It really gives you a great vibe into the show. Not saying like, oh yeah, this show is going to be a great vibe, like you're going to have a fun time because, oh, it's a good world they're living in. Fuck no, it's the opposite. But I mean, you're just on board to see the crazy train ride that's going to go down. Everything that's going to unfold, everything that's going to go in anybody's favor. All cards are held up, especially with the fucking ending of this episode. There's just a lot of groundwork built for what's going to be far more present and paid off in seasons later, which is great. I also want to quickly mention that while the show obviously has a sense of humor, dark or simplistic, one of my favorite moments from season 1 generally comes from this episode. The moment where Huey's initial reaction after finding out that Butcher's not an FBI agent.
Oh, just call it the fucking FBI.
Technically, I'm not a Fed.
What? Then who the fuck are you?
It was just that little moment from Jack Quaid I found to be very humorous for myself when I'm watching it, and was worth pointing out because I really like the show's humor for the majority of it. And in this episode, I don't think it misses once for me. I love this. The tone, the setting, everything, the characters, me getting invested in this whole show, or just even this world that they're trying to showcase to me, the audience. I just digested it like good food, bro. This thing was great. I love this. And even if we're not talking on future seasons, just talking on this one as a singular episode on its own 2 feet, I would say that Anthony Starr, bro, this guy, this dude, fucking peak, okay? The guy acts greatly in this show. He is stealing every fucking scene he's in. And even here from the first episode, while you don't get his more crazed lunacy, you definitely do get your slight glimpses at Homelander being the devious stoop. The ending, we all know him to be later down the line, like the guy literally killed a child on that plane that we see at the end. It's crazy. I would say that it won't be the first and only time we see him take a bunch of lives on a plane. This is only your first little glimpse at it. But he has an act for it. My headcanon is that they're all just Jeff players, so it's deserved. Overall, it's a very great episode and very fun. Standouts here being Carl Urban, Jack Quaid, and of course, Anthony Starr.
For everything I loved about the last episode in the season, this one kind of just doubles up on it and makes it more enjoyable somehow. Even though I really like both of them, from the comedic yet great needle drop with Homelander and Stormfront killing the criminal in the street, to the moment of Annie's reunion with the boys, especially Butcher following the shot that took place in season 1.
Starlight, don't you just light up a room, eh? You're looking well.
Yeah, no thanks to the 50 caliber round that she pumped into my chest.
Well, what don't kill you makes you stronger.
To Maeve even getting the camera from deep and where that will lead in the finale. There's just a lot of great setup and establishment in this episode for the finale, and I think it just makes it more prominent that with the time we spend throughout the episode here is used greatly, and I think it's paced well in a way where I never get tired of it or I didn't notice the hour kind of just flew by when it went through. It helps that it's a very good showcase of Homelander and his emotional sensitivity as a character, but that more great showcase of Frenchie's character, because I think ultimately this is my favorite episode that we get a portrayal of him. The writers and showrunners gave us an insight to his character and the guilt he has, the struggle, the background, what has fucked up with him.
Must have been thrilling for you. You murdered innocent children, shot. You watched them burned alive, crying for their mama. If that's not an animal, then what is, huh?
Like, what is the thing that mainly distance him from the boys? What made him feel like shit? And this is the episode that gives you that. I really like getting that topic with Lamplighter. And just to talk more on it, getting the insight with Mallory and how that fucked with her in a sense, getting that all answered here is really great, especially since you had that hinted at in season 1. So to get it paid off here is amazing. But I could talk extensively about this episode, which I already am, but the whole institution as the setting for this episode is chaotic shit that I will always love and will go down there as one of my favorite settings for the show's entirety. The way that church setting was in season 1, that's what this is for me in season 2. This is the setting that I remember most when it comes out of the season because of what we spent there and the time we spent there. It left an impression on me. But whether it be the boys and Lamplighter following their past encounter and connection they had, you get the character development for Starlight in where she murders a person just to get the heat of the moment saving Huey. which, once again, is a little bit of character development going forward for her character because she didn't do that previously. And we get to see how she deals with that sort of pressure.
Maybe once I would have cried over him, but now he was just another person in our way. No.
No what?
No to that fucking look of quiet respect or approval or whatever that is. I don't want it. We're nothing alike. Nothing.
But just going more, the bitch at the end, Cindy, her leaving the institution after everything that goes down with Stormfront and all that, it's like, dude, where that leads in season 5, fuck that girl. fuck her. I don't like her. But in the best possible way, I mean, like, to have that be your little, like, note ender for the episode is great, especially on a rewatch with season 5 in mind, I would assume. But just the ending with Homelander and Stormfront is another one that deeply establishes the superiority race and complex that she has. So some scary shit to have set up for that character and what Stormfront represents. But for me, this was just a blast of an episode. I'm not sure if everyone's going to agree with this take, and surely I don't hope everyone does. That's kind of what I hope with these rankings or these reviews. But I think for me, just the shit you get with Frenchie in here, and even Homelander, just a lot of great moments that I can reflect back in this episode highly and go, yeah, it may not be the best episode of season 2, but it is damn near not just one of the best ones, but even for the show's entirety, I think it is really good. I love this episode.
God damn. Brother got a love sausage.
Episode 4. We're starting off with a fucking banger with this episode. You get Butcher's cheeks in your screen, okay? You want that? You want that? You want that on the face of your screen? Well, have it. You get to take that raw. But jokes aside, I would say on an entertainment value and even objectively in the show's entirety, this 4th episode for the first season is without a doubt one of the best and greats we have to put on this marker. You obviously get Kimiko appearing for the first time in this episode, so that's great, but you also get a bunch of funny, great jokes balanced in with this one. Like pep talks from Butcher referring to the Spice Girls that gets paid off near the end.
You see, when they're apart, they're absolute fucking rubbish. But you put them together, they're the goddamn fucking Spice Girls.
No. Let me talk to her.
Don't be fucking stupid.
What if she's a Spice Girl?
She ain't no Spice Girl.
But probably not intentionally. I'm not sure why the stupid fly was just roaming around in scenes, but it's funny to see that the cast addressed them.
We're all shine by ourselves.
Honestly, it was just that Toronto was hot. There was a lot of flies when we were shooting. And for some reason, they decided to put a sound effect on the fly. Whenever one would be in a shot, they would like add a little like...
Not to mention, this might be the best display of Homelander's psychotic break we get so far in the show. And by that, I mean the memorable Flight 37 sequence that is obviously one of the best moments in the show, period. It means so much, but just having it out of context, like, it is a horrifying scene to witness. A scene that I could rewatch on YouTube many times over and watch the show back and view it as nothing more than a standout.
All of you, stay back! You stay the fuck back or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every fucking one of you!
Hell, even the ending is pretty fucking strong and kind of horrifying, low-key. Especially if you haven't seen season 1 before. I don't know what to expect on my first time watching it, but that's why I rank and praise this episode so highly, because of what it does with the expectation, how it subverts it. People like Huey and Starlight get a moment to bond, which is very nice, and it was all under Butcher's intention for relevant blackmail. I tend to enjoy the character writing here, and they were all done very well, especially that scene in the bowling alley between those two on the date. Twisted, dark sense of humor.
To be quite honest, they're really frustrated. And I'd like to, just shine a light on it.
While also having its fair amount of tension and realism to mock at. Overall, I would definitely mark this episode to be as one of the best we've gotten in the show's entirety. I love episode 4. It's great. This episode is by far one of the best episodes in season 2. I would say that you already start off with a very funny kickoff little gag for Huey punching back on Butcher following the last episode's ending. But even to Starlight and Huey working together and accomplishing the goal of exposing Vought for Compound V and where that moves the narrative, I love that. Seeing the boys get hyped for that sort of win while Butcher is very much keeping his grasp on things, saying keep your eye on the ball, not off it.
I'll tell you what. When we're all done here, I'll buy you a nice big family-sized bottle of top-shelf lube. And I'll tickle your balls till your big meters stop. And even then I just won't do it. But right now, we got a soup terrorist below deck. And shit can go sideways just like... So all of you, keep your fucking eyes on the ball, yeah?
Don't worry about him. Yeah, fuck him. You did great.
So I think that's a great way to keep the boys back on track, making sure that they don't get too ahead of themselves. Moments that don't really overstay their welcome too much in this episode, and I really like that because it makes for a great pace. I would say the little moment of Homelander throwing Ryan off the roof is pretty funny here, especially people who haven't seen it in context. It's just always a great scene. But having Homelander get mad at Stan Edgar, I think, is also like another great moment of those two interacting. Along with Huey talking about his second wind for Starlight going forward and what he sees in her, what she represents for him. That's just some great movement for their relationship going forward. And I would have to say, going back to Mother's Milk for the exact same reason, with him being near Huey, trying to stand by his side to keep him on the boy's side, keep him going forward, to not lose hope. I find that to be a great scene as well, having their chemistry built up more. You could go back into this episode and see where Stormfront gets her first villain moment shown to the audience directly, where she even kills Kimiko's brother here. I would say the revelation here is pretty good, especially if you haven't seen the show before. I know for me, it caught me off guard seeing that she was a villain, because I had no context as to who she was, what she was, and to get that first hint there and see what type of effed up thing she does in this episode had me glued to the screen wondering what's going to happen next with her character. So that's always a positive for me. To end the episode off with that sense of revenge, that desire of hatred, I love that. It makes for a very ultimate build-up for what you want to see, even though I don't think the next episode is as strong. This one right here, it has a very big accomplishment to do of making you hate the Soups, and I think it does it damn near perfect. I love this episode. It's a great episode. It has a lot of crazy batshit moments, but most of all, just for the sake of your entertainment, start to finish, this is highly regarded in my part of the ranking. It's too good.
Oh, fucking diabolical.
Continuing that trend, Season 3, Episode 4. Another great episode to add to the list. Whether it be the fact that I just really like this season or have so many great moments that I can count on one hand alone. Butcher and Huey, their conversations in here, whether it be why are you taking the temp V or can you pass me some of it, how that plays out in the future. Things where Homelander gets confronted by Stan Edgar after kicking him out of Vought, getting him fired, pretty much outing him for all the corrupt shit he has done. Great stuff, and that conversation's amazing.
The company is yours. No one left to stand up to you. But I think you'll come to sorely regret that. Eventually, probably soon, the world will recognize you for the pitiful disappointment you are. You are not worthy of my respect. You are not a god. You are simply bad product.
Not to mention that this is the same episode where you get a stupid 6-7 mention in here from A-Train.
A-Train! By all means. Floor's yours.
I wanted to talk about 6-7.
But whether it be through that or A-Train and the Deep and their sort of anger, their hatred for each other, specifically A-Train towards Deep, the thing that gets paid off in Season 4, you can definitely see that here. Even though it's present a bit in Season 2, it's way more present here in this one scene if you didn't already get the picture. But you also have moments with Huey meeting Homelander, which I think is great, that interaction.
What's she like? She good fuck?
Ooh.
I'm kidding.
You really need to lighten up, guys.
To things down like Newman exposing Stan Edgar and how that leads Homelander to giving her Compound V for Zoe to use. I can't really talk more on this episode that hasn't already probably been said. You get my goat Jamie the hamster in here whooping ass in the Russian lab. That's pretty fire.
Oh, Jimmy! Who is the handsome petit little gerbil?
It's a hamster. My daughter went through 3 of them. Oh, shit. Motherfucking V-Dub hamster.
You get Soldier Boy finally out of the box, out here moving, going on his own little adventure past this point in the season. But yeah, I would say I really like it. This is unfortunately the episode where Supersonic does pass, and to me, people think that Homelander killing other people in the show would probably beat it for them, or what he did to Becca being the top one spot. For me, it was Supersonic. We have not much time with that dude, but for what we do get of him in Season 3, I really enjoyed him and how kind he was towards Starlight and the overall mission he was willing to go towards on defeating Homelander. Just for him to get brutally murdered off screen and we see his corpse after, while he threatens Huey in front of Starlight to give that sort of sense of looming threat, I thought that was great. Perfect way to end off the episode. The tension here is great. The hype moments with Butcher saving the boys with his powers in the Russian lab, to Huey also taking the Temp V, makes for great dynamics in future episode, but just for this episode alone, makes for such a surprise that I can't help but be glued to the screen and be like, fuck yes, I want more. This is great. You even get to build a bit on Mother's Milk and his hatred for Soldier Boy in the beginning, which will get paid off later down the line. And last note to end you off with this episode being peak is you get the infamous Homelander line.
Is your idiot brain getting fucked by stupid? It's not rhetorical. Answer me.
Let me just say that this is outright, probably to me, the best episode of Season 1. You have great payoffs for Huey and Starlight's relationship up to this point in the season. And even with the last episode teasing off Mesmer, giving off the info, exposing the boys, it leads to some of the best tension-filled moments in the series by far. Not just for Season 1, the whole show. Some of my favorite moments, whether it be A-Train threatening Huey at his home with his father, to the moment with the whole exchange in the Vought Tower with Homelander talking with the Seven for a meeting, specifically focusing on Starlight and her involvement with the boys and just having that sort of threat come down.
Someone, I don't know, got him in to see Ezekiel and got rid of the Deep.
Whoa.
Keep those hands down by your sides, Missy.
All of that is great stuff. I love it. So to have that really good balance of darkness, of tension, with sequences sprinkled a little bit of humor here and there, specifically courtesy of the Deep.
I'll get you out of here. Just hang tight.
Yeah. Oh, hey, can I take one of these lobsters back with me?
You got it.
This one. Yeah, that's my guy. Oh, wait.
The comedic timing with this episode is great on top of the pacing, and the writing is just damn near perfect to me. You have some great little character moments here and there, or at least character building moments. So, for example, you have Mallory's flashback with Butcher talking about how he came to be the way he is, relating to Becca regarding the situation with Homelander. To the moment with Homelander interacting with Dr. Vogelbaum, talking about the incident, even if it's a lie at the very moment, the conversation they gave us gives us a little insight into Homelander's backstory and upbringing.
Forgiveness? Now? After you raised me like a fucking lab rat?
I don't want anything from you, John. I'm just an old man thinking about his mistakes.
I'm the world's greatest superhero.
You're my greatest failure.
And it makes for great stuff to be teased and talked about more in the future. I would say it leads to one of my more favorite episodes in Season 4, just with that conversation. And you know which one I'm talking about? It's the one where he goes back to the lab. There's just so much in this episode you can appreciate. And for me specifically, I think when you look back at this episode, I thought the acting scenes were great, whether it be A-Train's moment with Huey talking to him about Popclaw and what it felt like killing her, how it feels to lose someone you love, that sort of feeling. Hell, even the moment with the deputy director and Billy gets earlier from the season gets a callback to this episode where Butcher is willing to sacrifice his own ulterior motive to help Mother's Milk out as he manages to convince him of what they do now. But for me, I think him killing Mesmer is one of the better scenes in the season as well. Just that sort of raw anger and frustration he has. We get a glimpse into how he feels with these soups even more than what we're told, which I love. But having Huey and following that beginning with him having the conversation with personal arguments thrown in here, it will further develop, and I can only appreciate this episode for really starting that trend. Like I said, some great moments in here, back to back, where I can't even say there isn't a doubt. This is one of my favorite episodes of Season 1, if not the favorite. But we'll see, because the finale is somewhere in here, either before or after. We'll We'll get into it. Episode 4 of Season 4 might be the best one, right behind the finale, if not over it, because this episode is really great. Whether it be the fact that you finally have the Colin and Frenchie subplot really like going under wraps here for the most part, I find that to be good to just brush over that. But then we get straight into the best stuff about this episode, which is Anthony Starr as Homelander. Here you have his episode going back to the lab following the previous one, and what can I say? His performance is great. Every single second and minute of the episode following him and getting his revenge on the people who wronged him in the past. Perfect. But even to moments like Marty getting killed in here from Homelander, at first I thought it was like a bit traumatizing to witness that, but it makes for a very ultimately brutal, intense, and satisfying death for someone like that. I had no problem with it whatsoever, and I found it to be ultimately satisfying seeing him at the very end get his revenge, win in that case. And that's Homelander. We're rooting for the villain here. I couldn't help but feel very bad for him in this episode, and then having to understand more about his character and what he went through. Having that smile with all the blood dropped on him at the end as the elevator is synced up to the beat with Huey's dad waking up having Compound V in his system. One of the most thrilling and great endings to this show, if not one of my top 5 ones. It's just too good. Whether you have Starlight in here beating up Firecracker, I thought that made for a very nice, satisfying beatdown as far as those characters fighting, and I call it a fight as if Starlight didn't just whoop her ass, kinda. But having Sage plan out for Firecracker to fight Starlight only for the public eye to hate her, I thought was really great. Even comedic moments talking on Firecracker, whether you have her interacting with Butcher, I thought was very, very funny with 2 particular moments that, one, you definitely heard, the other, I just love the facial expression Carl Urban makes when saying, yeah.
Well, you're those motherfuckers that killed my friend.
Yeah, crying shame that. You and your little Bieber edging in the back of your RAV4 in the car park at Booker the Better.
You have Butcher in here killing Ezekiel with the parasite, which we didn't know up to this point, but we could have implied what it was. As far as the episode with Shining Light and Kimiko, while that I feel like is a bit goofy and how that just kind of wraps up here, you don't really get any more addressal past this episode. It's like that could have been removed, which is probably my only negative really for this. I like especially A-Train having his redemption arc even further brought here, or even like brought onto Ashley a bit with them two conversating and where that would lead for future episodes down the line. I think when Huey gets the Compound V from A-Train at the end and him apologizing, or at least accepting the apology, forgiving him, I thought that was great for those two characters going forward. But for me, knowing that Butcher took Compound V to try and de-escalate his situation only for it to get worse, I thought that was well written. I like that reveal going down the line, and it makes for a really tense subplot going forward in Season 4. You even get the amazing callback that while people say in the finale of Season 5, why would MM adopt Ryan? That doesn't feel right. Here in this episode, which honestly makes it better for me, is the fact that you get the addressal scene here talking about how Butcher wants MM to look after Ryan, which I'll showcase here.
Emma, got a favour to ask. If I can't get the job done, I need you to get Ryan away from Homelander. Get him out of there. Raise him.
Raise him?
You're the best dad I know him. Best fucking anyone.
What if Ryan doesn't want to go?
Then you've got to make him.
And that's great to see it get paid off near the finale of Season 5. I felt like that made for a big satisfying moment in the epilogue to me, even though it's brief. But with all that being said, this episode's great. I think that it just kind of flew by. The pacing in here was really tight, and that is very much helped by the Homelander subplot in here that I thought was phenomenally executed. I had no issues with that whatsoever. This is definitely going to be the episode that people talk about a lot in the future, or even just as the show has ended. Because even though Season 4, you could say what you want about it being weak or mid, I found this episode to be such a heavy standout compared to the rest. Like the quality from this one compared to the other 6 disassociating the finale in here, I think this one's just superb. This episode's pacing was really good, and the focus on characters that we love as far as entertainment goes, such as Homelander, are executed greatly here, and I couldn't help but feel satisfied with what I watched. Season 3, Episode 7. We get more charismatic Soldier Boy in this episode's starting minutes, to even Homelander and Maeve's conversation and how she's satisfied to see him bruised to some extent following Herogasm, which might be having one of my favorite shots in this whole show, with Butcher, Huey, and Soldier Boy in the trunk shot. I really like that one, and I think it was worth mentioning. But this is a very much Billy Butcher-centered episode, and I love it for that. Whether it be the payoffs to understand his backstory with his brother and his origins, with Lenny and his abusive father, and how that dynamic kind of rubbed off on him to shape him for who he was later down the line in the future. I feel like that was done perfectly, and Carl Urban acts greatly in this episode. He is a big standout.
Because anyone who's ever loved you, you end up getting them killed, don't you? Me, Becca, now Huey. The last person in God's green earth trying to stop you from being a monster, and what do? Drag him down to your level.
No! I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry.
Sorry for what? It's okay, Butcher. It's okay.
Especially when Huey frees him from his mental captivated state, courtesy of Mindstorm, which, speaking of, I think his death here is pretty good. Think of it as a fucked up Captain America kill, but in the best cool way possible. And even just talking about Soulja Boy right now, once again, he's more charismatic in this episode like he has been in the season, and very fun to see his dynamic here with Huey, whether it be the little bickering they have with each other.
Ah, you hear that?
Might want to lay off the weed, huh?
And you might want to gargle my ball sack.
They're trying to work together. I found that to be very fun. Following Kimiko's journey of wanting Compound V to regain her powers following the last episode's events, I felt made sense, and it was understandable for a character going forward. Her interaction with Annie I thought was good and very wholesome, especially when Frenchie supports her near the end. There was some deep humor in here to be had, specifically with Ambrosius and Cassandra, his ex-wife, which I found immensely funny.
Babe, this is Ambrosius. She's very pretty. She thinks you're strong. Ambrosia says she wants to taste you.
No, okay, I can't, I'm out.
You learn A-Train has Blue Hawk's heart here following his murder, which I found to be a very dark and twisted solution to his Season 1 problem. So even a little bit of OG Black Noir's backstory in here, which I briefly forgot to mention in the other episode it was mentioned in, but covering it from Mallory's POV to this in his own cartoonish way, I thought was done nicely to see the relationship between Soulja Boy in the Payback days. There is a nice balance between humor and more season-led moments here. For example, Todd getting his ass knocked out, I think every viewer cheered or at least was happy or satisfied with that scene. So the comedic Homelander milk moment, or even that one puffed up cheek moment that comes from here. Or him almost getting exposed via Starlight and that threat and how that goes down, I thought that was a nice scene. This is also the episode where Starlight figures out Temp V is highly dangerous and consequential to anyone who takes significant doses of it, which to that knowledge she alerts Butcher to warn Huey, in which he doesn't, or so you think. With where the finale leads, I found that to be satisfying in hindsight. And then talking more into the finale and where everything leads, the ending bombshell and revelation that Soulja Boy calls Homelander to let him know that he was his father and willing to let him take the spotlight, I didn't expect that on my first watch, and that caught me off guard, and I was waiting to see what would happen in the next episode. Even watching it back, like that crazy twist, I think to me, hit hard. Like I was really interested and invested to see where it followed. That's how good it was. I really like episode 7. It gives me emotional payoffs and build-ups for characters like Butcher specifically, which I can appreciate even more with the final moments he has in season 5, respectively. And this is another highly ranked episode to me. I really like it. There isn't much that really needs to be dived in here that hasn't already been said, but for finale of season 1, it is pretty fucking great. Whether it be that you have the Homelander and Butcher confrontation at long last, it makes for such a great sequence, especially with the curveball of rather than Butcher killing off Stillwell, it is instead Homelander who does the deed himself. It has such a crazy cliffhanger ending too for setting up season 2, and even aside from the build-up for the show's future, I really like specific moments in this episode, whether it be Butcher and Huey seeing Mallory and getting the heads up that leads them to split between having the two boys members when deciding what to pursue, Homelander or helping their team. Showing how selfish and blinded rage and vengeance can be has made Butcher. I think it really just stands out for the speech Mallory gives to Huey, especially with that colliding sort of conflict between the two, and things in season 4, how that ends as well, leading to season 5 a bit.
Vengeance isn't a path to glory, Hugh. It's a one-way ticket to a dead end.
But moments like those little subtle character moments talking here, having those interactions, that doesn't really get brought back up enough in the conversation when talking about the Boys season 1 finale, and that's what I want to talk about more, the conversations between Maeve and Starlight. I thought that was a really nice moment, reminiscent for those two characters talking about their humanity and how they keep it intact with everything that's kind of, effed up in the 7 and just their public fame, all that persona. It's great to hear them discuss about it, and it really does set up Maeve for season 2 and even season 3 go forward.
I was just like you. And then I started giving pieces of myself away, and I guess I gave away everything. You know what? Just be original. My position is already taken.
Specifically for Maeve in the moment, really needs to show that guilt that she has from the plane incident and how that's affected her. Great stuff. Whether you have the moment with A-Train and how that exact timing happens when they're escaping, which after the Compound V causes his heart attack status again for season 2. Just him being a junkie off the Compound V and that being what gives him a heart attack. Very poetic way to just have him written off for that moment of the finale. I feel like that was done well. But I briefly wanted to bring up that moment because Huey, without a second thought, also decides to help him out with the heart attack, despite everything he's done, despite the hatred he has for him. He doesn't want to have that guilt on his shoulders the same way that he had with Translucent, or even stooping down to the lows of someone like Butcher. I find that to be great for his morality cause. More or less, I think for the finales and the show's final run, this is one of the very big standouts, obviously, and it's the first one they left off for a marker. So the showrunners had us bloody hanging with the idea that Ryan is there, that Homelander has a son, and he has his exact power with the laser beams. What can I say? It was a hell of a ride for a finale, and what laid way for future seasons going forward. This is the episode that set expectations sky high. Talk about starting the final season with an absolute thrill ride and a bang. It really is the peak of season 5. From catching up to speed with the boys following the season 4 finale, I thought that was nice. Then Butcher finally killing his father off screen, which has been long awaited since that season 3 episode that I really like and talked on. You have Butcher communicating with the now non-muted Kimiko and them reuniting, which I'll tell you right now, her dialogue throughout the whole season, I was a bit more frustrated and negative and mixed towards. But here, I thought it was good and fine since it wasn't dragged out nor played out compared to the future episodes that would follow. But I do enjoy when the respective boys members meet their better halves, including MM and Love Sausage, and where that all ends wholesomely. To even the interaction within these chaotic camp settings of Huey and Homelander. I thought that was great, showing the distance between Huey's innocence and selflessness compared to Homelander's ever more devoid nature of moral understanding and his selfishness.
You know, William and Victoria Newman love you, too. Why are they so hopelessly devoted to such staggering mediocrity? Why would Starlight and Butcher piss away their lives to try and rescue you?
Because I do it for them.
A feeling and connection he could never understand due to his son of a bitch facade. And even talking about this episode as a thrill ride, you have the Flight 37 video from the opening minutes being released to the public and that being covered up with AI as the defense. I found that to be clever and neat working around that plot, since honestly that would just be a way to solve it in this current modern age. But how did Starlight manage to sneak in there without being noticed? I really don't know. A bit contrived if you ask me. But MM having his little gag here with Homelander for their first shown encounter to us, I thought was nice.
You never told me that this one's nickname is Mother's Milk. Okay.
I think the best thing of all in here is that Homelander wasn't even seemingly nerfed in this episode compared to another episode I'm winking at you, the finale. But here he cuts Kimiko in half, which pisses me off because, you know, in the finale he doesn't seem to ever do this again, but I complained about that there, so I don't need to do it again here. But it being present obviously shows a true intended display of his power to its full effectiveness. For example, Homelander killing Huey's friend with ease, then grabbing him and screaming, "William!" Great stuff that had me on edge, but let's talk shop to what everyone remembers most, including me. Episode 1 here showed off the willingness to kill off core characters like A-Train. After setting him up in Gen V Season 2 or even the Season 5 trailer release, I thought we were going to get more of him, only for me to realize his character has already gone full circle in Season 4. Remembering that, and then seeing where things were going in Season 5, I was like, oh, this is going to be the episode he dies. Whether it be transporting his family away from the Deep who is pursuing him, and those he loves, to confronting him head on, which I thought was a great conversation, to even the Deep getting something paid back through the finale, whether it be through Homelander and Starlight. That is also covered here, which I really liked briefly. But tracing back to A-Train and his final appearance being a last-ditch save attempt for the boys and Huey specifically, I found to be great, having that be their final impression of him compared to their first initial view in Season 1. And if that didn't already feel full circle enough, the main moment that ensured his fate being the act of not repeating another Robin incident is damn near fucking perfection. Sure, you can argue how he didn't see her sooner or simply evade, but fuck that. From what we see, most likely avoiding to trip on any grounded stubble or even just looking to his side because, you know, Homelander's on his ass. But that momentum he has when he finally looks up and considering not to run into her, that causes his imbalance to drastically fall through the woods for Homelander to catch up. I thought that was fine. Like, I have no problem with that. However, the moment that segmented it to be one of the most emotionally driven deaths in the show, and one of my favorites, if not my favorite, behind Homelander himself, which is A-Train's death. And having the one-on-one conversation with Homelander, that final moment beforehand, striking him to his core of what he represents, what he would be without any of his powers, I think that is great. Him mocking Homelander, I love that whole scene and how it played out from start to finish.
It's just an empty fucking suit. Take away these powers. And what are you, huh? Pathetic, weak, sniveling fucking loser.
Speaking of what started the sequence, that super speed chase of Homelander against A-Train is peak nightmare fuel. Homelander has the directly shown menace that we know he's capable of, and here it is shown so intensively to the point where I expected this moment in the season finale that he lacked. Homelander was a straight demon here, chasing him from the camp to the woods and then finally snapping his neck in a fit of rage. All fucking perfection to me, and a great way to end this episode, even if what would shortly follow would not be as hype. What can I say about the season 4 finale that hasn't already been said? I think that this episode is a fucking banger. I love it. Starting off, you have great moments here from Huey and Butcher interacting with him on his deathbed. He wants Huey to do this one simple favor for him, and where that gets paid off in season 5 I thought was great. Or even like telling the boys he's sorry.
Tell the boys I'm sorry, would you? Just tell them I'm sorry. Goodbye, Huey.
It helps that that moment is like a slow zoom-in take on Butcher, almost signifying that that's one of his most genuine moments talking down with someone in the show, rather than manipulating them. And the way that that cuts into the parallel shot of Homelander, I thought was a great way to subtly show that they were both villains in a sense. Even though he doesn't die here, considering what Ryan does to Grace Mallory, killing her. Well, I thought that part was a bit rushed as far as her dumping the info on him. I can definitely feel the urgency and the desperation to try and get him against Homelander's side, so I'm fine with that overall. It's not the biggest problem to me, and it makes full sense that Butcher would turn and want to eradicate the Supes following the shit he saw. Any sort of little hope of humanity he saw in Ryan not being like his father, that moment gave away that the Supes gotta go. Even though it doesn't follow too much in season 5, this season finale perfectly sets up the way for where season 5 should be going. Don't even get me started on the hype ending with Nirvana and the track of Heart-Shaped Box. Perfect fucking montage, and for my first viewing, I was hyped till the moment the credits rolled. Seeing Butcher ride in his whip and then getting ready to use the virus. That shit made for such a crazy, blissful hype that I couldn't even describe when I first sat down and saw it. And regardless of where season 5 picks up with that, I think that season 5 starts off with a banger episode, so it doesn't really ruin this finale for me. From the moment that Butcher kills Newman, stepping in, looking all healthy than ever, that's when I knew that we were about to get some fucked up shit on screen, and the death did not disappoint. Brutal and fucked up in the best way possible for Huey to witness.
Oh, by the way, you're all fucking welcome.
A moment so peak, I just had to get a picture with Carl Urban himself doing the smug smile. And don't mind my presentation, this was me with 3 hours of sleep to my name. But not that it matters. My eyes are red from editing this video so long, but even I just have my side Butcher Funko to keep me company. My hair is still chopped, I need to get a haircut. But past all that, jokes aside, let's get back into it. Even to the failed assassination attempt with the shapeshifter in here, I thought that made for a very tense moment to have those characters in this confined space dealing with a soup that powerful. That shit made for a very engaging sequence. And the way Huey, when he figures out that the shapeshifter is not really Annie, him playing that off with Mother's Milk made for some of the most funny shit with Mother's Milk's reaction going, "Hey!"
But that is 100% not Annie. Okay, listen. The fate of the country relies on us keeping our shit together, so just chill.
Hey! And the final tease that Soulja Boy is gonna come back in the next season, once again, pretty fucking hype. Even if he would become a Vought Rising ad for season 5, but I still found that to be very hype and I enjoyed it immensely on my first viewing. This episode is gonna be highly regarded and definitely highly ranked just because of what it represents for that first time watch and that viewing. But when that's all safe and resolved, I would say that having Starlight's reaction toward Huey at first being angry, I didn't really like. However, I'm fine with them ultimately coming to good terms at the end, which I can appreciate and move forward with. And on top of all else, I already hinted at how the final montage was great, having the boys separate or even Kimiko talking for the first time in the show. Even regardless of season 5, once again, seeing that for the first time made for such an impactful moment that I don't think gets taken away for anyone who is new watching the show. I feel like that's more dedication put towards the Gen V characters in this season finale than they did have in season 5's finale, which is pretty fucking stupid, but I appreciate it here because it isn't done wrong here. Homelander was very unpredictable with not just the final montage, but even the moment where he exposed Newman as a suit before her death. Him choosing to threaten her and Zoe, I feel like made perfect sense to lead her into wanting to aid the boys in helping to kill him, just for Butcher to ruin that with his Kessler dark agenda. And having that twisted ending fate for Zoe being an orphan, I thought was great. Even to the inclusion of Cindy, the bitch that I hate, for separating my boy Huey and putting him in the camp following this. To even the romantic relationship between Mother's Milk and Love Sausage reuniting once again at long last. And don't even get me started on the massacre in the Vought Tower, where Ashley is fending off for her life to survive and takes Compound V in a desperation attempt, and where that will lead in the future. You couldn't help but feel anticipated watching it for the first time, wondering what her superpower would be. This was the type of finale that had you talking once the credits were done and while you were waiting for the next season to air. But pretty much this finale I thought was amazing. I had an absolute blast with it. I still think it upholds that shock value and that intense hype. What can I say about this episode that hasn't already been said? This episode is great, but I do have an issue which I'll get into a little later. Starting off, you have MM's growing conflict with Butcher following his passed out status in the last episode near the end. You get Ashley speaking with A-Train and rubbing in his face that he's a hypocrite, cursing him out with very surprisingly truthful words. I thought that writing in the scene was great, and for me, the way those two characters move into season 4, I thought that was also great with this in hindsight. Homelander sending the Deep to Hero-gasm while also learning that the OG Noir left any comms behind in the tower. I thought that progresses his character more, especially when you get a little more of his origin down the line in the season. But any scenes with the boys and Soldier Boy in this episode are great. You don't need me to tell you what you don't know already. Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy is, if not, a top 5, maybe even top 3 castings for the show's entirety. You get insane Homelander moments here that shine with him having a conversation through the mirror.
Tell me the real reason. I want to hear you say it. Say it! Want them to love me. Yahtzee!
We gotta cut that part of you out like a cancer. And then, well then, my boy, you can finally be who you were always meant to be. Pure, clean, like marble.
Which will get brought back into season 4, episode 3. The brief threat of Newman over Starlight was enjoyed for me on my first watch and makes for a nice commentative and tension-filled moment between the two, especially with how Starlight ends the episode off, exposing Vought, I thought was great. However, this episode isn't to be talked about without mentioning the elephant in the room itself, Hero-gasm. Some of the most insane shit you'll see in this show comes courtesy of this event. To point towards one episode of the show, this would have to be it. Too much crazy shit going on that it wouldn't be the number one that you point at. If I was to talk on dark moments in here, you have A-Train killing Blue Hawk, which I think was paid off very satisfyingly for what happened in the last episode. You also get a very, very brief moment mention of Soldier Boy's history with Liberty, aka Clara, which the one that shall not be named with season 5 in mind, but you do get a moment of that and I'll showcase it here.
Still a thing, eh?
It's my thing. I founded it in 52. Me and this other soup, Liberty. Man, was she a firecracker.
You also get a really great interaction between Huey and A-Train in here, which I can't show because it's in the Hero-gasm event, and you know it has the YouTube no stuff in there, but I really like that conversation between the two and how Huey's still mad at him for not apologizing. I think that makes for a great small interaction. You get the intense fight between Homelander, Butcher, Soldier Boy, and a bit of Huey, which after witnessing the season 5 finale and knowing how that goes down, this fight here is the peak one of the show's entire run. The tension, the stakes feel personal and just right for a hype moment like this. I especially love when Butcher tells Huey to dip out of the fight and he refuses, insisting to stay by his side to make sure that Homelander gets put down in the moment.
Joey! Get out of here! No fucking way!
It showcases Huey's willingness to look beyond just himself to destroy the greater present evil. You even get Mother's Milk here confronting Soldier Boy briefly, even though Butcher stops him, which I can't help but feel bad for him again because he wants his revenge and we fully buy into why. But ultimately, him helping Starlight and aiding the people who were critically injured from the Soldier Boy blast, I feel like is very morally right for his character, and I appreciate that as well. Something that doesn't really get talked back when looking at this episode, but I like it, to more overlooked moments like Kimiko saving Frenchie even without her powers, but barely makes her decision that follows into the next episode and why she could almost not save him. I find that to be great stuff. One of the more mixed moments in here, though, is Huey and Starlight, where it kind of takes away from a scene I like in season 1, where it makes Huey seem a little more whiny than honest, which I don't know how I feel. Overall mixed and fine moving forward for it. And to me, this episode just kind of has some of the best moments you'll have out of the show, but not even just that, some of the most peak intense sequences to go down. So with that being said, this has to go down as one of the most memorable, but also one of the best episodes in the show. This episode is great. For a finale, this is the most conclusive one out of the whole show. I don't know what season 5 is going to look like. I'm watching it tonight, and I'll put an editor's note here. If it is more conclusive, it should be, but we'll see. And as of right now, I think sidelining that and talking about this episode, it's great. From the start, I love having Edgar discussing who he will bring back in the 7 and where that will pay off.
That was you? Dude, I didn't know, sir. Fuck him. I would never go behind your back.
You're back in.
Fuck yes! What? Yeah! Yeah, the A-Train is back, baby! I'm back too, right?
I'm sorry, Deep, but they only had one slot.
So they took him? Fuck yes, they did! Well, shit! Peace out, bitch!
Into a few more courses, up to level 7.
No, I don't want to pay for any more fucking courses.
Deep, please calm down.
I signed over my bank account to you. Married some weirdo who gives terrible blowjobs.
As well as addressing Stormfront as the racist she is, exposing her, because it's not just problematic for A-Train, but just, you know, for the 7's whole moral compass. Stormfront being exposed is great, and her being nonchalantly evil as much as possible in this finale compared to her starting off in the season, I think is great. Having like the curtain pulled and seeing the mask slip off, see her for what she truly is great. And having her get beat the shit out of in this finale is one of the most satisfying things here. But I don't even want to talk more on it. Like Homelander, intimidating as always here. You get probably most brain-seared images you can for seeing Homelander drop from the sky all bloodied down, or him like kind of going out of the home and then seeing the blood on him as he like puts his chin down, thinking about what he's gonna do next and all how that goes down. I have no problems with this finale. It's a damn near perfect episode to me. One of the best episodes in the show, probably top 3. We'll see what happens with this ranking, but I think it will rank very highly, like at least top 5. I love it. But you get conclusions for not just Mother's Milk that is satisfying with him going back to his kids, to Butcher letting Ryan have custody with Grace Mallory, or even the fate of Becca in the end. Like, holy bro, Carl Urban's acting in that moment. Hell, even Anthony Starr, just everyone does a great job, but specifically them two in this episode is such a heat of the moment standout that you just can't help but look at it and go, holy shit.
Help us! Somebody help us!
I'm fucking sold. But yeah, crazy. And then the ending with Homelander jacking off in the sky, like, you know how that is on the rooftop. It's just, apparently that was a season 1 cut and it got brought back in season 2, which is fucking comedic. But I don't know what I can't talk about that doesn't already get talked about. Whether you have Newman being revealed as a soup at the end, that's great. A lot of the tension that's here, just so much payoffs, so much hype moments in here. And it's like, it's that one meme of, what do you have? I won't say. I got hype moments. Yeah, that's what this episode is. It is so damn fun. I have no problems with it. I don't really want to talk more on it because this is one of those episodes that you kind of just experience and you can agree that it is just great. By far, this is the best episode in season 2, and it is just so well put together, and I have no problems with it. I am satisfied from start to finish, and the ending, like I said, is one of, if not the most conclusive out of any of the show. You get the setup for Ryan and Butcher going forward with what Becca has told him, and even where that pays off in season 5. But I think this episode has something everyone can love in it. For me, it's the best. Damn, what a long video this was to film and even edit. Hopefully one of my takes in here were so hot that it rage baited someone. Otherwise, I didn't live up to my YouTube name. That, or someone could agree with some of my takes in here. Hopefully someone can testify to that. Because that's what I love about rankings. Mostly everyone's opinions are usually different for the most part, and mine carries that sentiment. But with all that being said, for not uploading anything over a year now, and having this be the big project I come back to do, I had a lot of fun with it, and hopefully you guys did too. So if you enjoyed the time and effort I put into this, or just found yourself relaxing while hearing this whole thing out, I appreciate your time, and hopefully you could leave me a like or even subscribe. It means a lot and helps this channel grow. This show was something that I got into somewhere around the time of season 4, and I had to say it became one of my favorite shows. Talk about the quality drop here and there through the last 2 seasons, but overall I still had fun and I still would recommend the show. Anthony Starr being one of the most iconic villains in television history from this show is something that you can always praise and look back upon positively. But even to the fun cast here that you have to work with for the boys and the 7. Even with my flaws here and there, I enjoyed the 5 seasons that came out. Even with all the frustrations I have, I was always entertained. And hopefully you were for the most part. But anyways, that's about everything I had to cover. And have a nice rest of your day. Peace.